Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. After dying hundreds of millions of times, I copied my talent and killed all races. Chapter 41. It seems that the quality of our talent training camp is not high. Or is it that Longjing Martial Arts University has lowered its standards this year? Next to the tall young man, a woman with blonde hair and slightly raised chin looked at Su Mu up and down. In the genius training camp of Longjing Martial Arts University, there are basically geniuses from the top high schools in each safe zone, and some even come from the same high school. Because of this, they who are in top high schools will inevitably have a sense of superiority to some people in ordinary high schools. For Su Mu, an ordinary high school student who had never heard of him, they seemed to have a sense of superiority and arrogance. I'm not sure I awakened some kind of energy and blood talent. I was accidentally promoted to the 7th level of martial arts. I got in by luck. However, when the time comes for the camp entrance examination, it won't be fake at all. The young man tilted his head and said mockingly. He glanced at Su Mu, then ignored Su Mu and turned to leave. No wonder he has such an attitude. The gap between top high schools and ordinary high schools is huge. Because the two are completely different in terms of teachers and various daily training meals. Sometimes, the number one student in an ordinary high school is thrown into a top high school and is not even ranked in the top 20. It is for this reason that many people who were ranked in the dozen or so in top high schools transferred to ordinary high schools 1 month after awakening their talents. Then, with the help of their nearly overwhelming results in ordinary high schools, they blended into their original talent training camp that you can't get into. It can be regarded as using the selection mechanism of a wave of talent training camps. But later, this kind of thing was banned by the Daxia Martial League, and a ban was issued prohibiting students from top high schools from transferring to ordinary high schools after awakening their talents. Of course, students from ordinary high schools still transfer to top high schools from awakening high school, but that doesn't make much sense. Su Mu didn't pay too much attention to the young man's mocking words and the more or less scrutinizing looks from the people around him. It's like if you are very good looking and others say you are ugly or not good looking, you won't care at all, because you know that it is just because they don't understand, and you will not question whether you are not good looking enough. But if you are really ugly and someone else says you are ugly, you will feel a little bit angry because what others say is true. Su Mu, as a person who has known death countless times and who knows that the human race will perish in 10 years, has long placed himself at a very high level. Su Mu would only feel a little bored by these people's mocking words. It is a sign of immaturity to jump to conclusions about someone you are not familiar with. It would be even more stupid to look down on the other person with contempt and underestimate the other person's strength. After the young man said those words, the young man who came to greet Su Mu also silently returned to his team. It can be seen that although he did not ridicule Su Mu like the previous young man, he probably felt from his heart that Su Mu was not very strong and was not ready to invite Su Mu to join his team. This is even more desirable for Su Mu. After possessing the ability to roll back after death, Su Mu has been deliberately letting herself walk alone, not wanting to involve too many people around her. On the one hand, Su Mu's talent for reverting to death means that he will often commit suicide-seeking behaviors. Such behavior would be inconvenient if he had too many companions. You were about to die, but your companions didn't know it, so they insisted on saving you, made unnecessary sacrifices, and even saved you in a weird way. What's going on? On the other hand, the more people she knows, the more Su Mu will inevitably find a way to save them. But in fact, there are some people who are not worthy of letting Su Mu waste a chance to go back and save them. His future self also reminded him of this in his diary. The use of death rollback does not allow Su Mu to be kind and save everyone. In the battle with all races, death is inevitable, and the sacrifice of some people is also necessary. Su Mu has been slowly adapting to this. What Su Mu wants to save is the entire human race, his family and friends, the people he cares about, not those who are insignificant and worthless. If they were rescued one by one, Su Mu might be the first to die of exhaustion. Su Mu is not a cold and heartless person. If he can save her easily, he will not refuse to save her. But he is not a great saint who has to save everyone. If the general development of things has been in line with Su Mu's expectations, and only a few insignificant people died, Su Mu will not go back to death because of those few people. Once while others were observing Su Mu. Su Mu's eyes also fell on those people in the square. As his eyes swept across, their information also appeared in front of him one after another. Name, unknown. Vitality value, 90.57, 9th level martial artist. Physical refining technique, Tianfeng physical refining technique. Breathing method, wind breath technique. Talent, level B, wind control. Name, unknown. Vitality value, 78.57, 7th level martial artist. Physical refining technique, wild bear physical refining technique. Breathing method of the earth. Talent, level A, power of the earth. Name, unknown. Vitality value, 88.57, 8th level martial artist. Physical refining technique, pure yang physical refining technique. Breathing method of the sun. Talent, to be analyzed. I have to say that he is worthy of being selected into the talent training camp. Su Mu glanced roughly. Among this group of people, the one with the lowest health value is also the 7th level martial artist. The highest one even has the existence of a warrior. Each of the physical refining techniques and breathing techniques practiced are also quite good. As for talent, the lowest level is also B level. As for the higher level ones, Su Mu's true seeing eye cannot see them. To say the least, it's S level. Although this group of people are a bit arrogant. But he does have the strength and arrogance. This kind of talent, if he were placed in any high school in a safe zone, he would definitely be among the best. Su Mu put her school bag on the side of the square, where everyone else put their school bags, and found a corner to practice meditation and breathing. The people in the square began to discuss quietly. Hey, let me tell you, my uncle also participated in this quota review. I heard that the top combat power of our genius training camp is the highest in history. Not to mention the dozen or so 9th level martial arts disciples. There are even 3 first level warriors. 3. Real or fake? It's only been about 2 months, and there are already people who have stepped into the first realm of warriors. Are they perverted? Of course, I don't know about the other 2, but I know that one is the little princess of the Ji family. The little princess of the Ji family. No wonder. If it's from the Ji family, then it makes sense. Hey, sometimes it's really irritating to compare people to each other. I have almost no rivals over there. Now that I'm here, my self-confidence has almost been completely destroyed, but fortunately there is a guy from Bailon High School who is at the bottom. Ha 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 ha, that's true. Put it this way, I think that boy from Bailon High School is pretty good. While everyone was chatting, several figures appeared in the square at some unknown time. Is everyone here? An old man with white hair looked at the middle-aged man aside. Except for the little princess of the Ji family, everyone else is here. The middle-aged man bowed slightly and said, as for the little princess of the Ji family, I heard from the Ji family that they will personally send her to the assessment location. That's it. The old man was not surprised when he heard this. That's right. Everyone in the Ji family is a treasure. This little princess of the Ji family is the one who has inherited the glory of her ancestors. It's right to be cautious. Now that everyone is here, let's start. There are still too many people in the training camp, so we need to reduce it. The old man finished speaking. He took a step forward slightly. The next moment, his entire body suddenly disappeared into the square. And after the middle-aged man heard what the old man said, no hesitation. It was also a flash of his body. But he appeared in the center of the square. His eyes scanned the people present. Then he gave a cold shout. Everyone, assemble. His voice was not loud, but it reached the ears of everyone present clearly. Su Mu, who was still practicing meditation, was also interrupted by this voice. His eyes looked in the direction of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's information also immediately appeared in front of him. Name, unknown. Vitality value, 43.92 million, middle stage of 6th realm warrior. Physical refining technique, 9 orifices physical refining technique. Breathing technique, whole body luck technique. Talent, to be analyzed. The middle stage of the 6th realm warriors. This kind of strength seems to be the highest except for the group of top secret guards Su Mu saw when she became a 9th level researcher. As for the human trader, Su Mu couldn't even see his panel, so he wasn't included. It can only be said that he is worthy of being a teacher at Longjing Martial Arts University. In an ordinary martial arts university, with such strength, one can probably become the principal. Su Mu followed the crowd and stood in several rows. And the middle-aged man, after seeing everyone standing up, then he slowly said, I believe many of you already know that before entering the camp this time, everyone must go through an entrance examination. Only after passing the entrance examination can you officially become a member of the Genius Training Camp. Members, are you ready? Ready. I heard the middle-aged man mention the assessment matter straight to the point. Everyone was happy. Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes. The middle-aged man folded his arms. You can go to the entrance of the training camp and store your luggage. In 10 minutes, gather here. I will issue you with bracelets and weapons for assessment. Now, let's take action. The middle-aged man just finished speaking. The next moment, the campers in front of them began to move quickly. 10 minutes later, everyone returned to their original position again. Several people in suits also appeared next to the middle-aged man and began to register and distribute bracelet weapons to everyone. At the same time of distribution, the middle-aged people also began to introduce the contents of this camp entrance examination. Next, I will take you to an exclusive assessment location opened by our Genius Training Camp. Inside, there are aliens that we just captured from the battlefield of all races some time ago. The bracelets given to you have only one function. When you kill aliens, it will automatically help you record your points. The more aliens you kill and the stronger your strength, the more points you have. The top 10 people with points will be displayed on the projection screen in the sky. Quote, I would like to remind you that the bracelet cannot protect you. What can protect you is the weapon in your hand. If you cannot deal with the aliens in front of you, the best way is to escape. If you cannot estimate the gap between yourself and the enemy, then even if you die, it will be in vain. Don't expect anyone to save you. The middle-aged man's words made everyone below slightly stunned. No one will save them. And they are facing alien races on the battlefield of all races. Although it has been known for a long time that there is a certain mortality rate in the Genius Training Camp, no one expected that death would come so quickly. All of a sudden, everyone who was still a little excited suddenly calmed down. Okay, now the person whose name is called, come here to receive the bracelet and choose a weapon. Su Mu also quickly picked out her long sword. The weapons issued by Longjing Martial Arts University are not bad. At least it reaches the standard of AD class weapon. It was much better than the long sword he used in the Agni Martial Arts School before. Stroking the long sword in her hand, Su Mu let out a long breath. Although he has the gift of sword heart clarity, he has yet to find a long sword that suits him. It is not an easy thing to find a long sword that suits you. However, even an ordinary long sword can be used. Every time she holds the long sword in her hand, Su Mu will feel a power stirring in her heart. Soon, everyone got their bracelets and weapons. Middle-aged people don't talk too much nonsense. Give a wave. A bus drove into the training camp. A group of campers from a Genius Training Camp were blindfolded and put on a bus. The rumble of the bus echoed in Su Mu's ears. Su Mu, who has super 5 senses, can clearly feel every route the bus takes. In his perception, it was about 2 hours after the bus left the school. The bus finally stopped. Su Mu got off the bus with the rest of the campers. When you open your eyes, what Su Mu saw was a huge forest. As expected of Longjing Martial Arts University, it was able to carve out such a large forest in the 9th security zone as an exclusive assessment location. Su Mu can feel that this place is still within the scope of the 9th security zone. In the middle of the journey, the bus stopped several times, and each time a group of people were dropped off. Because Su Mu was sitting at the back, it was not until the end that she and the others behind her were let down. After putting Su Mu and his party down, the middle-aged man took the bus and left. It was at this time, Su Mu noticed that a huge screen was suddenly projected in the sky. Points ranking. First place, none. Second place, none. 10th place, none. Everyone, the assessment has begun. Hold the weapons in your hands and protect yourselves. An old voice reached everyone's ears. At the same time, Su Mu clearly heard the place not far away from them through her super 5 senses. A roar was deafening. Su Mu frowned slightly and temporarily blocked her super 5 senses. Just as Su Mu and others were being put down, somewhere in the forest, a girl with a face as cold as frost and a temperament like an iceberg slowly walked into the forest. Qinghan, from now on, you have to rely on yourself. Dad has only one request: protect yourself. Sure enough, the gap between the aliens on the battlefield of all races and the aliens in the alien hunting grounds is really huge. You also said that no one will save you, but you were really going to die, and you still come out to save people, really. At this moment, Su Mu is walking in the forest. His body was already stained with little blood stains. Just in the time just now, Su Mu tried 2 things. One is to experience the difference between the aliens on the battlefield of all races and the aliens on the hunting ground. Secondly, this is to try to see if you can get a wave of talents by being killed by those aliens in this assessment. As a result, the result of the attempt left Su Mu speechless. First of all, it is certain that the aliens on the battlefield of all races are indeed much stronger than the aliens Su Mu encountered on the alien hunting grounds before. He was just a foreigner with the 9th level of martial arts. He actually used the terrain to avoid Su Mu's attacks, and then hid his body in an attempt to deliver a fatal blow to Su Mu. If Su Mu hadn't had super strong 5 senses, she would have accidentally hit the alien Dao. According to Su Mu's observation, the biggest difference between the aliens on the battlefield of all races and the aliens in the alien hunting ground is: the alien races that have come down from the battlefield of all races have higher IQs and know more about the human race, and they will also make corresponding countermeasures based on some of the human race's behaviors. This result is not much different from what Su Mu guessed. What really made Su Mu feel speechless? Just now when I was in the square of the training camp, Su Mu thought it was just like what the middle-aged man said: no one would take care of you if you encounter danger in this assessment venue. But when he deliberately wanted to die in the hands of a foreigner, someone immediately came out and saved his life. Wait until he wakes up. Not only did he find himself in the hospital, he was also directly disqualified from the genius training camp. If he hadn't had a death reversal, he would have really been tricked by that middle-aged man this time. But Su Mu thought it was normal after thinking about it carefully. If the assessment location of the genius training camp is on the battlefield of all races, it may really be impossible to rescue them. However, since the genius training camp has specially set up an assessment site in the 9th security zone, it has also put some aliens captured from the battlefields of all races into it. The purpose is naturally to assess these campers while ensuring their safety. Now for the campers Su Mu. He has not officially joined the talent training camp yet. Naturally, it's not yet time for them to actually face the threat of death. The middle-aged man probably said this just to make all of them wary. After trying this answer, Su Mu went back to the current time. For ordinary people, it is a good thing for someone to come out to rescue you when you are in danger. At least even if he was eliminated, his life was still saved. But for Su Mu, this is not good news. With the number of death rollbacks increasing, Su Mu has slowly become accustomed to death, and has even begun to actively seek death in order to obtain more talents and information. Facing a test where death is inevitable, all Su Mu has to do is kill as many aliens as possible and perform better. His intuition told him that this camp entrance assessment was not only related to whether he could officially enter the talent training camp. It will also have a certain impact on whether you can obtain outstanding campers later. This outstanding camper, Su Mu, is destined to win. If you can get excellent campers, Su Mu will be able to enter Longjing Martial Arts University in advance, and at the same time, she will be able to know the contents of the diary earlier. In this case, we can only do our best. Su Mu narrowed her eyes slightly. Next moment, it was as if a map within 100 meters of the surrounding area quickly appeared in his mind. Information about alien races was displayed in front of him one after another. Race: Silverback Wolf Clan. Vitality value: 135. Early stage for a first-level warrior. Talent: a level, Moonlight Silver Thorn. Habits: living on the battlefield of all races. Weakness: waste. Race: Kanching Bull Python Clan. Vitality value: 235. Early stage for a first-level warrior. Talent: Level A, Giant Coil. Habits: living on the battlefield of all races. Weakness, 7 inches. Race, Red Flame Mad Lion Clan. Vitality value, 286. Early stage for a first-level warrior. Talent, to be analyzed. Habits, living on the battlefield of all races. Weakness, eyes. A silverback wolf can be encountered at the 12 o'clock direction, walking about 25 meters forward. A green bull python can be encountered at the 7 o'clock direction, walking about 78 meters forward. A red flame mad lion can be encountered at the 3 o'clock direction, walking about 85 meters forward. The directions of each foreign race are marked on the map in Su-Emu's mind. Su-Emu's super 5 senses, with the help of Deep Blue, are exactly like a bat's ultrasonic radar. All the scenes within 100 meters of the surrounding area were roughly restored. Then, let's start the killing spree. Su-Emu's figure quickly disappeared into the forest. At the same time, the rankings in the sky are also changing rapidly. First place, Ji Qinghan, 20 points. Second place, Square Ball, 18 points. Third place, none. 10th place, none. Please note that the minimum score for ranking is 10 points. Oh my god, are these two people monsters? They killed the aliens so quickly. I can't even beat an alien who is several levels weaker than me. That's it. Oh my gosh, how long has it been? It's been less than half an hour. And killing a 7th level alien from a warrior clan actually only got 0.1 points. How did the top 2 get so many points? I go. When a group of people were resting, they occasionally looked at the screen in the sky and felt a deep sense of despair. They worked hard to kill a 7th level martial artist and only got 0.1 points, but when they looked up, they already had 18 or 20 points. This thing is simply crushing. It should be the second of the 3 warriors, right? I guess only those who can kill the aliens at the 9th level of martial arts can get so many points, right? There are only those aliens who can kill the 9th level of martial arts in such a short period of time. Are they 3 first-level warriors? Is that so? It turns out that in addition to the little princess of the Ji family, the other guy who has reached the level of a warrior is actually called Fang Chocho. This name, well, I can only say that, sure enough, people should not be judged by their appearance. The name is average, but the strength is not. It's really extraordinary. No, I remember there should be another warrior. I don't know who it is. Come out, 3rd place, oh no. It's not 3rd place, it's Fang Chocho who fell to 3rd place. Not only Fang Chocho, but also the little princess of the Ji family fell to 2nd place. Then 3rd place, who is this warrior? He actually suppressed the little princess of the Ji family. Everyone looked towards the 1st place. I saw a few words written clearly on the top of the ranking list. 1st place, Su Mu, 325 points. 325 points, my god, in such a short period of time. Is this the strength of the 3rd warrior? I originally thought that the little princess of the Ji family was powerful enough, but now it seems that the little princess of the Ji family has crushed us, and the 3rd warrior named Su Mu has crushed the little princess of the Ji family. Who is this Su Mu? Have you heard of it? Which high school is he from? Why haven't I heard of this name before? It's so scary. I even wonder if that person named Su Mu cheated. After Su-Emu's name appeared at the top of the rankings, it immediately aroused discussion among the talent training camp campers. Without him, Su-Emu's results are simply too appalling. Just over half an hour. Even the famous little princess of the Ji family only had 20 points, while he had over 300 points. The gap between them was too huge. Naturally, this was not the only group of people who were surprised. Somewhere in the forest, a young man wearing blue short-sleeved shirts had just joined forces with his companions to kill an alien who was a 9th level martial artist. After the few points were divided among them, everyone could only get a few points. This alone consumed most of their energy. Several people were breathing heavily. The aliens on this battlefield of all races are really very different from the aliens I saw on the alien hunting grounds. They are so smart and even ambush a few of us. That is to say, it is obviously just a 9th level alien, but it took a few of us to join forces to kill it. I really don't know what we would do if we encounter an alien at the 1st level warrior level. What should we do? The few of us can only hug together to keep warm. Unfortunately, there are no boss level figures in our team. I just took a look. The number 1 ranking is the eldest lady of the G family. She has never appeared from the beginning to the end. Ranking the second one is a guy named Fang Chocho, who should be one of the 3 warriors. We can't win over the eldest lady of the G family, but we don't know who Fang Chocho is. If I can win him over to us, it would be nice to be in the team. Who says it's not? However, doesn't it mean that we have 3 first-level warriors in this class? The eldest lady of the G family and the one named Fang Chocho are already on the rankings. Where is the other one? Could it be just an embroidered pillow? You only have the energy and blood value of a first-level warrior, but don't have the strength of a first-level warrior. I think too much. Even if you are the most rubbish first-level warrior, that is not something that a 9th-level martial artist like us can compete with. A first-level warrior can learn martial arts. Alas, the ranking has changed. The square ball has become 3rd place. Let me go. The eldest lady of the G family has also become 2nd place. 1st place. Su Mu. Who is Su Mu? Is he the 3rd level 1 warrior? Let me go. More than 300 points. Is this guy cheating? He will crush all of us. The green short-sleeved young man who was resting on a big tree nearby heard the name called by his companion. He was stunned for a moment. Then I couldn't believe my ears. What's the name of the 1st place you just mentioned? Su Mu. Why does this name sound familiar? A trace of uneasiness flashed across the face of the young man in green short-sleeved shirts. He raised his head and looked at the ranking list projected in the sky. Then he showed a bitter smile. Do you still remember that I just went to recruit, and found out that he was from a high school whose name I had never heard of, so I gave up on that person. His name is Su Mu. The words of the green short-sleeved young man made several people nearby couldn't help but froze on the spot. Su Mu. The young man frowned slightly when he saw that name. What's wrong, little ball? Beside him, the blonde-haired woman followed his gaze. When I saw that the person at the top of the rankings had more than 300 points behind me. The woman's expression suddenly changed slightly. Monster. But why does this name seem familiar? Ah, I remembered. Isn't this the guy from the trashy high school? The blonde woman covered her mouth, as if she couldn't believe it, a camper from a trashy high school. Not only was he one of the 3 first-level warriors, but he also had an absolute crushing advantage. In less than half an hour, he stepped on the head of the little princess of the G family and climbed to the top of the rankings. The young man on the side snorted coldly. I told you, don't call me this name. That guy is just lucky. He probably discovered some secret to getting points. Obviously, this young man named Chocho does not recognize that Su Mu has the strength to surpass him. Let's go. There's a first-level warrior level steel-toothed pig ahead. At the same time, somewhere in the forest, the long whip in the hand of a tall girl tightly wrapped around a silverback wolf not far away. She was wearing a light blue blouse. The blouse did not seem to be as thin or fragile as it looked. Instead, it flashed golden light from time to time in the sunlight. If you observe carefully, you will find that the top of this light shirt is embroidered with light golden silk threads. The light golden silk threads are densely connected together, providing a good defense for the seemingly ordinary light shirt. But even with this light shirt made of special material, girls still seem a little embarrassed. The girl pushed the loose hair from her forehead to her ears. His cold eyes fell on the silverback wolf not far away that gradually stopped struggling. As expected, they are much stronger than the alien races we usually encounter, and their IQs are also much higher. He took the long whip back. The girl looked at the bracelet in her hand. 108 points. It seems that aliens at the level of a first-level warrior will have a more detailed points division based on their strength. She looked up at the rankings projected in the sky. More than 100 points should be enough for her to securely occupy the top spot on the leaderboard, right? With her status, it is completely easy to enter Longjing Martial Arts University. Just because her surname is Ji, Longjing Martial Arts University can enroll her in advance. But she doesn't like this method, just like she doesn't like some aunts and sisters around her. Even if she is injured, she still has to protect her, just because her surname is Ji. She wants to rely on herself. She wanted to see whether she would really be useless if it weren't for her surname Ji. This time, she came to the talent training camp just to be number 1. But when her eyes fell on the ranking list, she felt as if she had been slapped. First place. Su Mu, 325 points. Su Mu. Ji Qinghan's pupils shrank slightly. This Su Mu is the genius from Bailon High School. Isn't she really good? She can actually be ranked above the little princess of the Ji family with overwhelming force. At this moment, in a room, a group of people stood in front of a wall full of screens. The leader is a white-haired old man. Standing next to the white-haired old man is the middle-aged man who just announced the rules to Su Mu and others. Bring up his video. The old man nodded with satisfaction. Following his command, the screen on the wall in front of him suddenly began to play the battle scene of Su Mu. The middle-aged man on the side also spoke at this moment. At first, before he entered the camp, we thought he had awakened his talent for qi and blood that could quickly increase his qi and blood. But now it seems that we made a mistake in our judgment. He has great talent in swordsmanship. The old man glanced at Su Mu on the screen. He said lightly, "He reminds me of the junior of the Song family. When he was this age, he was almost the same as him." The old man narrowed his eyes slightly, paused, and then uttered two words, "Sword intent." Sword intent. The middle-aged man on the side was shocked when he heard the two words uttered by the old man. Are you saying that he has already understood the meaning of the sword? It's more than just sword intent. The old man said, "With my eyesight, I can't tell where his sword skills and body skills come from. I think there is a high possibility that he created them himself." Created by himself. How long has it been since he awakened his talent? How old is he? The middle-aged man looked in disbelief. The old man looked at Su Mu on the screen, pondered for a while, and then said, "Put him in front of Ji Qinghan." Hear what the old man said. The middle-aged man was also stunned. It was almost undisputed that the first person in their talent training camp was Ji Qinghan. Moreover, Ji Qinghan's talent is also destined to mean that no matter who comes, her first-order status will be unshakable. But now, the old man actually said that Su Mu should be ranked above Ji Qinghan. The middle-aged man was immediately confused. At the same time, I also became extremely curious about Su Mu. Are you so optimistic about this guy Su Mu? The middle-aged man couldn't help but asked. Yeah, I hope I got it right. ... Gulu gulu. Su Mu drank the water in the glass in one gulp. The long battle made him feel a little tired. He sat against a big tree. His hands were slightly drooped to the side. The bracelet on his hand clearly displayed a long series of numbers, 8,259. More than 8,000 points. Such points are simply terrifying. Ji Qinghan, who ranked second, only had just over 1,000 points. The difference between her and Su Mu is 10 times smaller. I don't know when this assessment will end. Su Mu looked at her name on the list in the sky and sighed. At the same time as he sighed, suddenly there was a loud noise around. The assessment is over. Now, everyone must gather at the place where the beam is projected within 5 minutes. The middle-aged man's voice sounded throughout the forest. At the same time, in one part of the forest, a beam of light suddenly dropped. The huge beam of light seemed to be a huge light pillar. No matter you look at it from any angle in the forest, you can clearly see the light pillar. Is it finally over? Su Mu breathed a sigh of relief. The next moment, his body quickly flew towards the direction of the light beam. When Su Mu rushed to the position of the light pillar, there are already many people standing beside the light pillar. They were all discussing their points, rankings, etc. I don't know if I will be eliminated or something. However, when Su Mu appeared in everyone's sight, everyone stopped discussing. All eyes turned to Su Mu. Su Mu seemed to have experienced this kind of scene a little bit when she entered the talent training camp. But this time compared to the last time, there were obviously more people looking at him. He is Su Mu. Even though he came from a high school we have never heard of, his strength cannot be underestimated. I really didn't expect it. I originally thought that everyone was here to compete for second place. The little princess of the Ji family should be the first place, but I never expected that such a big dark horse would come out. Not only did she surpass the Ji family little princess, there are so many more. It's too scary. He looks so harmless to humans and animals. Why can he kill so many aliens? You see, his body is stained red. It must be all the blood of those aliens, right? The sound of everyone's discussion reached Su Mu's ears, making Su Mu dumbfounded. He looked at himself. Indeed, the original clothes were now stained red with blood. The whole person looked as if he had been soaked in blood. The group of people discussing was the same as last time, and they did not approach Su Mu. Last time, I might have felt that Su Mu was a rubbish high school student and not worthy of being with them. But this time, he probably felt that he was not worthy of being associated with a killer like Su Mu. Su Mu doesn't care either. He stood aside minding his own business. However, when he was walking around, he also noticed two eyes, which seemed to be staring in his direction. He looked toward the gaze. I found that the owner of the gaze was actually a very beautiful and cold girl. The girl was wearing a light blue shirt and had delicate facial features, but she had an iceberg temperament about her that was unapproachable by strangers. Su Mu felt as if the air around her had dropped a few degrees just by being stared at by her. He frowned. The girl's information interface also appeared in front of Su Mu. Name: Ji Qinghan. Vitality value: 253.58, early stage for a first-level warrior. Physical refining technique: Xuanyuan physical refining technique. Breathing technique: Xuanyuan inner breathing technique. Talent: unable to view. It seemed that the features were so obvious that Shenlin could directly guess the girl's identity. Obviously, this girl is the little princess of the Ji family, Ji Qinghan. Shenlin's guess was similar to Su Mu's guess. What surprised Su Mu was Ji Qinghan's talent column. The people in the past were basically waiting to be analyzed, and after being observed by Deep Blue for a period of time, the talents waiting to be analyzed will slowly be analyzed by Deep Blue. But now, Ji Qinghan can't check it. This undoubtedly revealed two pieces of information to Su Mu. The first was that Deep Blue probably knew what kind of talent Ji Qinghan was. Secondly, Ji Qinghan's talent may be so important that her future self set some restrictions on Shenlan to prevent Su Mu from knowing Ji Qinghan's talent. That's right, the only thing that can make Deep Blue show that it cannot be viewed as the person who can transform the Book of Wisdom into Deep Blue's future. Although I am a little curious about what Ji Qinghan's talent is. But Su Mu already has her own way of dealing with some of her future self's behaviors. He suppressed his curiosity. The people under the light beam seemed to be gradually arriving. Just at this time, Su Mu suddenly heard a loud shout. Su Mu, I want to challenge you. The huge sound immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Everyone looked towards the owner of the voice. The one who spoke was the young man who had previously mocked Su Mu as a student from a rubbish high school. The young man's eyes were red and he looked a little tired. The clothes on his body were already stained red and soaked with blood, and the weapon in his hand seemed to have become a little curled due to repeated chops. Who is he? Why did he challenge Su Mu in the first place? You don't know, right? He is, hey, come here, I whisper, don't let him hear, he is square ball. Fang Chocho, PFF'd. I thought Fang Chocho was a big fat man, but I didn't expect it. Ha 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 ha, this name is too strange to be given to him, isn't it? Please keep your voice down. He hates people calling him this name the most. The reason why I know his name is that I heard before that anyone who called him by his name in his high school was beaten by him. It is said that the worst part was that I was beaten in bed for more than 3 months. Oh my god, let's keep our voices down. At this moment, the information about Fang Chocho also appeared in front of Su Mu. Name: Fang Chocho. Vitality value: 189.56, early stage for a first-level warrior. Physical refining technique: Qingfeng physical refining technique. Breathing technique: breathing technique of breathing the breeze. Talent: to be analyzed. Obviously, among the 3 first-level warriors, Fang Chocho is undoubtedly the weakest. However, he is very courageous. And it seems quite reckless. Su Mu, I don't believe you can kill so many aliens in such a short period of time. I don't accept it. You are a man, so just fight me openly, otherwise I will never recognize your achievements. Fang Chocho stared at Su Mu. He could accept that the little princess of the Ji family was in front of him. After all, they have the Ji family as their backing. But he has always been a crusher of his peers. He was born in a top high school in the 8th safe zone, but he couldn't accept a student from a trashy high school that he looked down on, and it was weighing on him. In fact, he also knew in his heart that Su Mu might indeed have some strength. But he just couldn't swallow this breath in his heart. Just dissatisfied with Su Mu. This is how Su Mu was provoked in public. Chocho, what are you doing? The blonde woman on the side frowned slightly when she saw Fang Chocho actually provoking Su Mu in public. Although she didn't think much of Su Mu, a student from a rubbish ordinary high school, at first, in the assessment just now. Su Mu has proven his strength with his own strength. She is not as reckless and brainless as Fang Chocho beside her. She does have her own pride, but she is not unable to accept the fact that others are stronger than herself, even if the other person's background may not be as good as hers. Don't worry. Fang Chocho gave the blonde woman a cold look. Then he looked at Su Mu again. Looking at Fang Chocho, who seemed a little anxious. Su Mu smiled helplessly. Compared to their own maturity and stability, these brats are still too young after all. He was getting ready to speak. But a voice interrupted him. His results were witnessed by me and tested by me. Of course, I guarantee their authenticity. If you don't admit it, he is still number one. The person who spoke was the middle-aged man who brought them here before. The middle-aged man glanced coldly at Fang Chocho, and finally fell on the others. I want to arrange a fight in private. When you enter Longjing Martial Arts University, you will have plenty of time. But now, stand still. The middle-aged man's voice shocked the rest of the Genius Training Camp members present, and they quickly stood up according to the middle-aged man's request. Wait until everyone is standing. Only then can we clearly discover that there were originally about 100 campers in the Genius Training Camp. Today, there are only about 50 or 60 left. Probably half the size is missing. Many people looked at the missing position in the team with some trepidation. I speculated in my mind whether these had died in the hands of foreigners. Only Su Mu knows. Most of these people have been rescued and kicked out of training camp. Judging from his experience, most likely no one will die in this camp entrance examination. Okay, you all performed very well. Congratulations on successfully joining our Longjing Martial Arts University's talent training camp. The middle-aged man's tone rarely softened. I'm here to introduce myself. My surname is Ding. In the next 2 months, I will be your instructor. You can call me Instructor Ding. Of course, I like the previous ones more. Some of your senior gave me the nickname, Ding Yan Wang. Instructor Ding's eyes swept over everyone present. Everyone who was swept by his gaze trembled involuntarily. I won't say much more. What I can tell you is that the aliens you are facing now are just appetizers. Even the aliens from the battlefield of 10,000 races, after all, they were captured, and the real aliens on the battlefield of all races are a little different, but don't be too curious. After entering the training camp, you will have a lot of time to face and experience the aliens who come into contact with these battlefields of all races. For a moment, they're terrible. Instructor Ding said and waved towards them. Next to them, a bus was slowly approaching in their direction. Okay, you can go back and take a rest today. The talent training camp will not officially begin until tomorrow. While talking, Instructor Ding was already walking towards the bus. The bus stopped in front of Instructor Ding. The car door has just opened. It was at this time. Suddenly, a beam of light hit the bus. Boom! The bus exploded suddenly. Instructor Ding, who was the closest, was suddenly knocked away by the powerful explosion. Pong! Instructor Ding. The light of the explosion was a bit dazzling, but many people still saw the scene of Instructor Ding being blown away. Suddenly several people screamed in surprise. He ran towards the direction where Instructor Ding fell. But he had barely taken 2 steps. But they found that several figures appeared around them. These figures were all wearing dark clothes. There are also various ferocious-looking masks on their faces. Just when everyone still couldn't figure out what was going on. But I saw it in the distance. Instructor Ding, who was blown away, just got up. His chest was suddenly penetrated by a war blade. Instructor Ding. PFF'd. Instructor Ding suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He had already been bombed, but he also received such a sneak attack. Suddenly, his face became extremely pale. The blood-stained face was covered with black ash and dust. Bye, worship paganism. You, how could you do this? Run, you guys run quickly. Hurry, go and get help. It seemed that he had exhausted his last bit of strength. Instructor Ding yelled. PFF'd. The war blade was withdrawn from his body. Instructor Ding's body collapsed. The person who killed Instructor Ding slowly wiped the blood on the blade. Then he looked at Su Mu and others who were surrounded. Tisk, 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 there are so many good seedlings, if they all die, Daxia will probably be heartbroken, right? Everyone looked towards the person who made the sound. The man was the same as those surrounding them. They were all dressed in pitch black clothing, but their bodies were obviously much taller, and their faces were also wearing ferocious ghost masks. Has pagan worship penetrated to this extent? Looking at the people in dark clothing around them, Su Mu frowned slightly. You know, this is located in the 9th security zone. Logically speaking, it should be the safest place in the entire Daxia. But now, in the place where their genius training camp was conducting assessment and training, such a group of people who worshipped pagan religions actually appeared. He also killed the instructor of their genius training camp in front of them. This is not good news for the entire Daxia, or even the entire human race. Su Mu thought that the human race might have been severely infiltrated. But I didn't expect that it would be penetrated like this. The figure he met when he became a 9th-level researcher, and the pagan cults that appeared in front of him now. Su Mu frowned slightly. He suddenly understood why the human race would perish in 10 years. Just as Su Mu was thinking, the surrounding group of pagan worshippers had also surrounded Su Mu and others. Although there seemed to be only a dozen or so of these pagan worshippers. But everyone exudes a powerful momentum. Especially the one at the head. Su Mu's eyes fell on the tall and strong man at the head. Name, unknown. Vitality value, 236.43 million. Early stage for 7th realm warrior. Physical refining technique. Schwantian physical refining technique. Breathing technique. Mysterious secret of mysterious heart. Talent, to be analyzed. 7th realm warrior. After the strength of a strong man, Su Mu only felt a headache. Not surprisingly, this wave of death is doomed. However, what Su Mu needs to think about is if this result can be prevented from happening. Did he report to the instructor in advance? Not very realistic. It would be fine if he had some identity. Nowadays, he is just a camper with better talent. Even if you tell others about this, there is a high probability that they will not believe it. Moreover, looking at their posture, it is obvious that they have already figured out their behavior, and it is even possible that there are people from them in Longjing Martial Arts University. In this way, even if Su Mu informed the instructors and the senior officials of Longjing Martial Arts University in advance, convince them to change the assessment location, and this group of people might appear in the new location. Just when Su Mu was thinking about how to maximize the effect of death rollback, the leader of the pagans spoke. I didn't expect that there is actually a little princess from the Ji family. Tisk, if you die here, the entire Ji family will probably go crazy, right? Hear the words of that worshipping heathen. Ji Qinghan's face turned cold. She didn't know when she had already grasped a dark blue whip in her hand. His eyes were fixed on the leading pagan worshipper. The remaining campers from the genius training camp gathered together and huddled together. He looked nervously at the pagan worshippers around him. Some people were so frightened that they almost cried. I don't want to die yet. Mom, help, is there anyone here to save us? What should I do? What should I do? I just want to hang out in the genius training camp, and then I can get extra points for the exam at Longjing Martial Arts University. I don't want to die here. Many people with weak psychological endurance could not help crying. It's so noisy. Feng Chocho snorted coldly. His bloodshot eyes stared coldly at the crying people next to him. Then he looked at the leader, the pagan worshipper. It's nothing to bully the minority. If you have the ability, challenge me in a duel. The big knife in Feng Chocho's hand was pointed directly at the leader of the pagan worshipper. Su Mu on the side held her forehead helplessly. Originally, I have to say that this square ball really dared to challenge no matter who it faced. It's okay to challenge him just now, after all, everyone is still a level 1 warrior. Now, he actually challenged a pagan leader who killed Instructor Ding. Is this so inappropriate for a simple-minded person with strong limbs? Originally, Su Mu thought that this guy mocked her for being a bad high school student, and later challenged her to question her own grades. This guy was very unhappy. But now it seems, come on, we don't have to argue with a reckless man with bubbles in his head, do we? Ha 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 ha, there is actually someone with backbone. It's just that my brain is a bit weak. The leader laughed, and then his eyes fell on Feng Chocho. The next moment, a huge momentum seemed to follow his gaze and press in the direction of Feng Chocho. Even the campers from the surrounding training camp felt as if they were being suppressed by some force. Su Mu is not far from the square ball. Naturally, I also felt the terrifying pressure. Is this the strength of the 7th realm warrior? Su Mu felt that it was difficult to breathe. When he was a 9th level researcher, he didn't know if it was because the gap between the human trader and the top secret guard was too big, or because Su Mu's strength was too weak. So much so that Su Mu couldn't even feel the strength of that human trader. But now, the strength of this pagan leader has made him truly feel the gap between himself and some truly strong men. Puff! Veins popped out at Feng Chocho's temples. He resisted with difficulty, but the strong pressure still made him spit out a mouthful of blood. Then with a plop, he fell to his knees on the ground. Asshole! Feng Chocho gritted his teeth and growled. But in the end he couldn't bear it anymore and was pressed to the ground. Ball! The blonde woman on the side was actually pressed down when she saw Feng Chocho. He immediately wanted to rush to Feng Chocho anxiously. Let go of my brother. But before he could reach Feng Chocho, he was suddenly pressed to the ground by the force. Puff! The blonde woman also spat out a mouthful of blood. Asshole! How can you bully a woman? Feng Chocho, who was pressed to the ground, yelled. Then he looked at the woman aside. Go away. I don't want you to worry about it. The love between brother and sister is really deep. Tisk tisk tisk, I'm so touched. The leader looked like he was really touched. Then, he turned his attention to the remaining people. Speaking of which, when I saw them, I suddenly felt that it would be a bit boring to kill you all like this. He swept over the rest of them. Let's do this, kneel down and beg me to let you go. If you don't let me be in a good mood, I will be merciful and let you join us in worshipping paganism. Of course, you can also choose to challenge me like him. Quote. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and the next moment, the square ball was directly grabbed by him, and then flew quickly in his direction. In the end, he grabbed his neck and couldn't move. Let me go. Let me go. Feng Chocho's face turned red. Okay. The leader shook the square ball to the side hard. Pong! The huge impact caused the square ball to plow a long ravine on the ground, and it finally came to a stop after breaking several thick trees. Life or death is unknown. Okay, let's start choosing now. Get down on your knees and beg me. These 5 words echoed in everyone's ears. But for the time being, no one had made a decision. It seems that everyone's hesitation can also be seen. The leader grabbed one of the campers with his hand. It seems that you need some stimulation before you can make a choice. The leader seemed to have a profound meaning. The next moment, the camper was caught in the hands of the leader just like the square ball. Would you like to see fireworks? The leader looked at the pagan worshippers around him. Think, shouted the pagan worshippers around them. Pong! Next moment, the captured camper's head suddenly exploded. The blood bloomed like fireworks. The leader's ferocious mask was immediately splashed with blood. The bloody scene made the heads of the remaining campers feel like they were buzzing. It's not like they haven't seen blood. After all, they are all geniuses from top high schools in various safe zones. They must have entered alien hunting grounds and hunted aliens more or less on weekdays. They just came out from hunting the aliens. However, the companion who was standing next to him a second ago suddenly died tragically in front of him. The bloody scene he witnessed with his own eyes was still a bit difficult for these 18-year-old young people to accept. However, it was obvious that the leader's approach had an immediate effect. Among the remaining 50 or 60 people, several people immediately fell to their knees with a plop. Please, let me go, let me go. Please, I can join the pagan cult. As long as you let me go, I really don't want to die. Let me go, I don't want to die either. Look at those people kneeling down. The leader smiled with satisfaction. Then he looked at the worshipping pagans on the side and said, tie a few of them up, throw them aside, take them back to the headquarters, and train them carefully. They will all be outstanding warriors in the future. Soon, the few people who were kneeling were tied up and thrown aside. The leader continued to look away from the remaining people. Does anyone else want to beg me? We worship paganism and still cherish talents. My patience is very limited. Upon hearing the leader's words, several more people immediately fell to their knees on the ground. It doesn't take a while. There were originally 50 or 60 people, but now there are only 30 or 40 people left. After making sure that no one would kneel down and beg for mercy again, the leader looked at the remaining people. Rao said meaningfully, "It seems that the rest of them want to die. Okay, then one by one, come up and die. Just in time, let everyone see how brave and fearless you are." The leader laughed, "Is there anyone who wants to die and wants to come up and challenge me?" As soon as these words came out, the remaining people looked at each other. These people have more or less blood in their hearts. The pride in their hearts did not allow them to beg for mercy from this group of human traitors who worshipped pagan religions. However, when it comes to actually facing death, not everyone has the courage to face it directly. Since there is no one, I have to choose it myself. The leader was talking, but saw the crowd. The little princess of the G family took a few steps forward. She nibbled on her shell teeth. His body trembled slightly. That fair and cold face was full of perseverance. But just when she was about to walk out, a figure stepped out of the crowd one step ahead of her. "I come." Hear this sound. Ji Qinghan suddenly raised his head. I didn't know when Su Mu was standing in front of her. He held a blood-stained sword tightly in his hand. The clothes on his body seemed to be dyed bright red due to the massacre of too many foreign races. He blocked the sunlight in front of Ji Qinghan, but it also made his whole body seem to be bathed in sunshine. Su Mu stared closely at the pagan leader in front of her. To be honest, for a while, Su Mu couldn't think of a good way to stop this group of pagan worshippers. The most critical problem is that Su Mu knows too little about this group of pagan worshippers. If you want to be able to successfully survive from the hands of this group of pagan worshippers, the best way is to die once at the hands of these pagan worshippers. In this way, Su Mu can not only know the talents of these pagan worshippers, but also be able to go back 12 hours before, giving him more time to plan and stop these pagan worshippers. When seeing the leader in front of me, Su Mu breathed a sigh of relief. Facing death, he was a little numb. But I don't know if it's an illusion. Just as he was shaking his head, he seemed to see a flash of praise and relief in the leader's eyes. Okay, here comes another one who is looking for death. He is also a first-level warrior like the guy just now. It seems that you should be one of the best among this group of people, right? I like to torture top geniuses like you the most. HMPH, stop talking nonsense and come on. Su Mu snorted coldly. With a short sword step, in an instant, he was in front of the leader. The next moment, the violent sword technique rushed towards the leader like a violent storm. Among them, Su Mu's understanding of the violent wind sword intention is hidden in every move. Su Mu attacked the leader's weaknesses as much as possible. However, what made Su Mu feel a little desperate? The leader clenched his fist in his hand. Next moment, roar! There seemed to be a tiger roar in the air. The leader punched out, and the powerful force directly annihilated all Su Mu's offensive. Immediately, he rushed towards Su Mu with a tiger that had become a solid substance. Su Mu only felt a powerful force rushing towards her chest. Puff! A mouthful of blood spit out from his mouth. Su Mu flew out directly. Like a kite with broken strings, it fell to the ground, life and death lingering. Next, the leader looked proudly at the remaining people. Hateful! Ji Qinghan saw Su Mu flying backwards, biting her lower lip slightly. Then he rushed towards the leader with his long whip in hand. The long whip swung towards the leader like a spiritual snake. But he was caught by the leader. Then the leader exerted a little force. Ji Qinghan was thrown aside by the leader with the help of his long whip. Girls from the Ji family. I haven't killed those precious little ones from the Ji family yet. The war blade in his hand was raised high. Intense light condensed on the war blade. Try this trick of mine. The hot sword energy condensed on the war blade and turned into substance and slashed towards Ji Qinghan. Feel the power of this attack. Ji Qinghan wanted to get up and escape. However, the sword energy came too quickly, and because he had just been thrown down, Ji Qinghan was unable to get up for a while. Just when Ji Qinghan closed his eyes as if resigned to his fate. But unexpectedly, she discovered that the attack did not fall on her. She opened her eyes in confusion. But he found that it was that figure again. Su Mu. Su Mu was also a little speechless at this moment. I'm not dead yet, what's the point of hitting others? You made me suffer so much for no reason. But fortunately, after receiving this blow, he should be dead. Boom! Su Mu fell backward. In his ears, he could only hear Ji Qinghan shouting behind him, "No!" Vaguely, he seemed to see the leader running anxiously in his direction. Going back again. Su Mu thought so. He gradually lost consciousness. What he didn't know was, just as he lost consciousness, suddenly there was a shock and anger in the sky. Suspended. Assessment suspended. Yukyong Budo University Second Hospital. Outside the VIP ward, an old man looked at the young man lying in the ward. Let out a long sigh. Xiao Ding, how is his condition? The physical condition has recovered very well. After all, he has the talent to help with the treatment. The only problem is that he doesn't know when he will wake up. After all, the injury he suffered at that time was too serious. If it weren't for his own mental strength, he would seem to be extremely powerful, and if we ask that person to come over and help treat him in time, I'm afraid he really won't be able to save himself. Why? The old man sighed again. If I had known this would happen, I would have personally taken action against this guy Wang Hu. It's not easy or serious. If something really goes wrong with this kid, I'm not done with him. Such a good seedling, if something goes wrong, it will be a loss for the entire human race. Mr. Zhang, you can't completely blame Lao Wang. Lao Wang didn't expect that his blow would not be able to knock the child out directly. The reason why he swung the knife like that was because the opponent was the little princess of the Ji family. Wearing a gold silk cloud shirt, even if the attack is carried out, the little princess of the Ji family will be fine. Who would have known that this child suddenly rushed out and blocked the attack for the little princess of the Ji family? Quote. The middle-aged man explained. Ha! Mr. Zhang snorted coldly, and then looked at the young man lying on the hospital bed not far away with relief. This is exactly what is so valuable about this child. You know, this child doesn't know that the Ji family it took less than a day for Non-Easy to know what kind of talent he had. The reason why he stood up to protect Non-Easy from the Ji family was probably because of the desire to protect his compatriots and his companions. Quote. Indeed, this child's enthusiasm and honesty are the first I have seen in all my years as an instructor. The middle-aged man looked at Su Mu lying in the ward and sighed. Not only that, I have done something similar. I saw a detailed introduction in his profile. He was also a pagan worshipper. He rushed to their school and kidnapped one of their classmates. When other classmates were too afraid to come forward, at that time, it was this child who bravely showed off his talent, and then replaced his classmate from the heretic worshipper, and also cooperated with the Night Walker captain there to kill the heretic worshipper. Quote. The middle-aged man expressed admiration. At the age of 18, he has such courage to sacrifice for the people around him. He is also extremely talented. To be honest, when I saw the things he did, I even felt that he was better than him. What makes his talent even more dazzling is his shining noble quality. If this child's character can grow up smoothly, he will definitely be a pillar of the human race. Quote. Mr. Zhang also nodded in agreement. That's why we have to spend a lot of money to revive him. Moreover, it can't be the kind of rescue that leaves sequelae. We must bring him back to the same peak state as before. Otherwise, no matter what, it is a huge loss to him and to the entire human race. Mr. Zhang, don't worry about this. For his arrangements, we directly use the best at all costs. We even invited that person over. There is no problem with his body at all. Even in the under-hour treatment, his blood value has almost exceeded 400 points, and he is just a hair away from entering the middle stage of a first-level warrior. As long as he can wake up, he can rest for 3 days at most and return to genius training immediately. Camp. The middle-aged man said, then paused. However, the only question now is when he will wake up. According to the hospital's response, it will be as little as today, tomorrow, as much as 1 month, 2 months, or 2 years a year. Years, it's possible. Don't Daxia have a department that specializes in spiritual power? Find a way to find someone to help. Mr. Zhang thought for a while and said. Mr. Zhang, Daxia's research on spiritual power is still in the confidential stage. It is a trump card prepared to deal with foreign races. It is really unrealistic to get someone from them. The middle-aged man said helplessly. I'll go and invite them myself. I don't believe it, they don't even want to sell me my face. Mr. Zhang's face suddenly darkened. Just at this time, a voice came from the side. I've met Mr. Zhang, I've met Instructor Ding. Mr. Zhang and Instructor Ding turned to look. I saw a figure with a cold temperament standing beside them at some point. It's so cold. Instructor Ding smiled, but what he got in exchange was a cold face from Ji Qinghan. Excuse me, Mr. Zhang. Instructor Ding, please give me permission. I'm going in to talk to Su Mu. Seeing this, Mr. Zhang and Instructor Ding could only smile awkwardly and move out of the way. Looking at Ji Qinghan, who walked into the ward, sat next to Su Mu and began to talk to Su Mu skillfully. Instructor Ding said, Mr. Zhang, you don't know, maybe out of guilt, that since Su Mu fell into a deep sleep, the little princess of the Ji family has come to talk to Su Mu every day. The little princess of the Ji family may have a knot in her heart because of what happened back then. If Su Mu can help her untie this knot, it will be a good thing for her. Mr. Zhang seemed to have thought of something. Normally. Hey, it's just a pity that the child Su Mu will wake up. I don't know when he will wake up. When he wakes up, the compensation for him must be adequate. It is better to be more than less. Instructor Ding was a little surprised. Mr. Zhang, it seems you really like this kid. Zhang Lao heard this and glanced at Su Mu inside. Who wouldn't like a child like this? If the old man were younger and I was younger, I would have accepted him as a disciple no matter what. But now that I'm old, I can't teach him anymore, and I'm afraid I'll delay this child. Instructor Ding said, What are you talking about, Mr. Zhang? Even if those foreign races hear your name now, they will be so frightened that they will tremble and run away. If you don't know how to flatter someone, don't flatter him. It's just a few words. Zhang Laobai glanced at him and then walked forward. Upon seeing this, Instructor Ding quickly chased after him, Mr. Zhang. By the way, does Su Mu's family know about this? Mr. Zhang, you also know that this matter is a bit disgraceful. Su Mu was not injured at the hands of a foreigner, but was injured like this by his own people, so we have not notified his family for the time being. We just said that there will be no injuries during the training camp. It's easy to contact, but if Su Mu still hasn't woken up after the training camp ends in more than a month, we can't hide it. Hey, we can only do this first. Their voices gradually faded away. At the same time, inside the ward, looking at the sleeping Su Mu, Ji Qinghan said nothing, but there were thousands of thoughts in his mind. Su Mu, why did you save me in the first place? In fact, since she was a child, because of her family's talent, she has always lived under the protection of some uncles, aunts and uncles around her. Not just her, but every member of the Ji family has been like this, from childhood to adulthood. In order to protect us, every uncle, aunt, and uncle in the Ji family will give up their lives without hesitation, and Ji Qinghan has long understood the mission of the Ji family, but she hates this. When she was young, when she and her father were out, they were attacked by pagan worshippers. In order to save them, her uncles and uncles blew themselves up one by one, blasting a way out and saving her and her father's lives. She didn't understand why her uncles and others would sacrifice their lives for them without hesitation, until an uncle told her that it was because she was from the Ji family. Ji family? What happened to the Ji family? Are the lives of the Ji family inherently more valuable than other human lives? She doesn't understand, and she hates it. She hates others sacrificing their lives to protect her. However, what she didn't understand was that her uncles, aunts and uncles, they protected me because she was from the Ji family, and because she had the unique talent of the Ji family awakened in her. But why was Su Mu? Obviously Su Mu doesn't know anything. Ji Qinghan sighed. He seemed to be talking to himself. Classmate Su Mu, wake up quickly. Then he stood up and walked towards the door of the ward. But I just walked to the door of the ward. But I heard a voice coming from behind. Well, Ji Qinghan turned his head suddenly. I saw Su Mu's eyes slowly opening. Where am I? Wake up, wake up. Ji Qinghan, who had a cold face, couldn't help but show some excitement at this moment. She walked quickly to Su Mu's side. Su Mu, you're awake. Don't move, I'll call the doctor. She looked excitedly at Su Mu, who had opened her eyes, crying and laughing at the same time. It can be said that over the past week, hoping that Su Mu would wake up has almost become an obsession in her heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't come here to talk to Su Mu every day. Now, seeing Su Mu wake up, the emotions in her heart that had been suppressed for a month burst out at this moment. While she was running to find a doctor, Su Mu also started asking about Shenlin. Deep Blue, what is going on? Where am I? Master, you have been in a coma for 7 days, 7 hours and 28 minutes, and are now in the VIP ward of the second hospital of Longjing Martial Arts University. What? Supreme VIP ward? Su Mu looked around. This is a huge suite. The surrounding ones are warm and yellowish tones. There is a huge TV in the center. There are some green plants on the table nearby. Next to the hospital bed, there seems to be something like a call bell. Can't we call the doctor directly? What was she doing outside? While Su Mu was observing the surroundings, Shenlin quickly told Su Mu what happened a week ago. What the hell? Is this a test arranged by Longjing Martial Arts University? Is that heretic leader one of the instructors? Then how did those people die so realistically? Su Mu thought of the guy whose head exploded in the leader's hand. That is an SSS level talent, Mirage. It can create some very realistic illusions. Without special talent or strong strength, it is impossible to see through the illusion of mirages. SSS level talent. Su Mu rolled her eyes. As expected of Rukio Martial Arts University, it really spent a lot of money to conduct a test. Master, according to my analysis, when the leader attacked, he actually held back his hand in order to temporarily put you into a coma. However, your mental power was too strong, so you did not fall into a coma. The leader's attack on Ji Qinghan after that was also calculated to the extent that Ji Qinghan could withstand it. Ji Qinghan was wearing special protective equipment. The leader's attack would not cause much damage to Ji Qinghan. At most, it would only cause shock. She just fell into a coma, but this attack fell on you who was already injured, causing you to be seriously injured. Originally, with this level of injury, you should have died, but Longjing Martial Arts University invited a person. With his treatment, coupled with your strong mental strength, you survived by chance, but your body fell into deep sleep. You mean, my mental strength is too strong, and with that person's treatment, I didn't die, but survived and fell into a deep sleep. After understanding what happened roughly, Su Mu pinched her eyebrows with a headache. Sure enough, what he had worried about really happened. He had worried about this situation before. He was about to die, but the people around him didn't know and saved him instead. It was impossible for him to tell others about his talent. At the end of this whole thing, he was really just a mute-eating Coptus chinensis, unable to express his sufferings. This is why he has always been a loner. I'm just afraid of this happening. Unexpectedly, it happened anyway. Shen Lan, how is my physical fitness now? Although she had a headache, Su Mu did not immerse herself in this emotion for long. Instead, he turns to understand his own current situation. Soon, his panel appeared in front of him. In conjunction with Deep Blue's introduction, Su Mu had a rough understanding of her situation. The best thing about misfortune is, although she was in a coma in bed for a week, Su Mu's recovery was still very good. Not only were there no side effects, but the qi and blood values also improved a bit. This couldn't help but make Su Mu a little curious about who the person who saved him was. He was almost dying of injuries at that time. But now, he is still alive and kicking. According to Deep Blue's analysis, he only needs to recover for another 2 or 3 days before he can return directly to training camp training. However, when Su Mu asked who that person was, Shen Lan did not give him an answer, but said that his current authority was not enough to know. It seems that he is another key figure involved in the demise of the human race 10 years later. Just as Su Mu was thinking, Ji Qinghan finally walked in with doctors and nurses. Following the doctors and nurses, there was an old man and a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was none other than Instructor Ding, who died in front of Su Mu and others. A group of doctors and nurses, after seeing Su Mu regaining consciousness, quickly came forward to check this and that on Su Mu. The old man, Instructor Ding and Ji Qinghan stood aside. After a while, the doctors and nurses stopped testing. Congratulations, Mr. Su is fine. He will be discharged after 2 days of observation. Hear what the doctor said. Ji Qinghan and the other 3 standing nearby also breathed a sigh of relief. Instructor Ding, what's going on? Although I already know everything, I still have to pretend. Upon seeing this, Instructor Ding quickly explained to Su Mu with some embarrassment. Su Mu also showed some expressions of enlightenment at the right time. Fortunately, classmate Su Mu, you are okay, otherwise our sin would be huge. Instructor Ding said apologetically. Then he pointed to the old man next to him. Student Su Mu, this is Mr. Zhang Hao, the current president of our Longjing Martial Arts University. Hello, principal. Looking at Mr. Zhang in front of him. Su Mu couldn't wait to let Shenlin check his information. This sight made Su Mu's eyelids jump immediately. Name: Zhang Hao. Chi and blood value: 27.8 billion, 36.43 million, early stage of 9 realm warrior. Physical refining technique: 9 revolutions mysterious technique. Breathing technique: Xuanyuan inner breathing technique. Talent: to be analyzed. 9 realm warriors. Although it is only the early stage of the 9 realms, he is also a strong one in the 9 realms. This is definitely the strongest person Su Mu has ever seen for the first time in her life. Don't be so arrogant. Just call me Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang looked at Su Mu and smiled. I'll call you Xiao Mu too. It seems cordial. Obviously, Mr. Zhang did not hide his love for Su Mu at all. Su Mu responded somewhat flattered. Mr. Zhang. Okay. Mr. Zhang laughed. Then he asked about Su Mu's physical condition. Su Mu found an opportunity to ask. Mr. Zhang, Instructor Ding, when can I return to the training camp to continue training? He was also a little worried about whether he would be able to be admitted to Longjing Martial Arts University. This is related to whether he can open the diary in advance. Su Mu, you should have a good rest first. We will consider returning to the training camp after your body has completely recovered. It is really inappropriate for you to go to the battlefield of all races as soon as you recover. Okay. Su Mu nodded. Mr. Zhang and Mr. Zhang exchanged a few words with Su Mu, told Su Mu to have a good rest, and then left. Suddenly, Ji Qinghan and Su Mu were the only 2 people left in the ward. Looking at the cold beauty next to her, Su Mu had a headache. How should I explain why I helped her block this blow? Instead of waiting for Su Mu to speak, Ji Qinghan was the first to speak. Su Mu, I want to ask you a question. Huh, you say. Why did you save me? Ji Qinghan looked at Su Mu seriously and said slowly. Chapter 51. Is it because I'm from the Ji family? After saying this, Ji Qinghan lowered his head with complicated eyes. In the past week, because of her status, she did not have to go to the battlefield of all races, so she was able to have time to visit and talk to Su Mu every day. And a very important reason why she comes to talk to Su Mu every day is because she wants to know an answer from Su Mu. She wants to know why Su Mu saved her. Is it because she learned her identity from somewhere, or is it for some other reason? Whatever the reason, she wanted to know. Because Su Mu is the only one besides her uncles and uncles who is willing to give up his life to save her even though they have just met her. What the hell is the Ji family? Hearing Ji Qinghan's words, Su Mu frowned. What happened to the Ji family? Su Mu said. Don't get me wrong, I saved you not because you are from the Ji family, but because we are companions in the same training camp. Even if we are different people, when we are about to face such a crisis, I will save you. We'll step forward. After Su Mu said these words, she looked at Ji Qinghan strangely. I thought to myself, does this girl think I have any interest in her because I saved her? Fortunately, I am smart. I have said so. You can't misunderstand me, right? Su Mu couldn't help it either. He couldn't possibly say that he ran to receive that attack just to die, right? And at this moment, Ji Qinghan was also stunned after hearing Su Mu's words. I saved you not because you are from the Ji family, but because we are companions in the same training camp. Su Mu's simple words kept echoing in her mind. Just because we are partners in the same training camp. Not because I am a Ji family member, but because I am a companion. When hearing this sentence, Ji Qinghan even felt as if his knowledge for many years was suddenly overturned. Because of my experiences from childhood to adulthood, everyone around her, when she and her family are in danger, will risk their lives to save them. Everything is just because she is from the Ji family. Therefore, since she was a child, when she met someone who risked his own life to save her, she would subconsciously think that the other person was willing to give up his life to save her because she was a member of the G family. To be honest, she hated this feeling. She hated that just because of her identity, when she was in danger, everyone had to risk their lives to save her. But it was at this time Su Mu appeared, when she almost thought she was really going to die. Su Mu stood in front of her regardless of his own safety. Blocked the fatal blow for her. Although he was also desperate to save her, even at the expense of his own life, Ji Qinghan's intuition told Ji Qinghan that Su Mu did not know her identity. After all, it was obviously just the first time that she and Su Mu met. Su Mu probably doesn't know her identity. But, in this case, why did Su Mu sacrifice himself to save her? This question lingered in Ji Qinghan's mind for a full week. Now, finally, the answer is found. For the first time, someone told her, I saved you not because you were from the Ji family, but because you are my companion. Countless thoughts flashed through Ji Qinghan's mind. She raised her eyes to look at Su Mu, a trace of doubt flashing across her cold face. Companion, do you mean friend? Friend. Su Mu raised her eyebrows, and then replied casually, let's put it this way. In the future, we may still be classmates or comrades, so I won't stand idly by when this kind of thing happens. Would friends risk their lives to save each other? Not because of anything else, just because the other person is your friend. Ji Qinghan continued to ask. Su Mu nodded. Of course, some friends will even make you willingly give your back to them. Hearing Su Mu's words, Ji Qinghan looked at Su Mu with bright eyes. So Su Mu, are we friends? Su Mu was stunned when she heard this, and then said with some uncertainty, let's count it. Ji Qinghan nodded vigorously. Okay, I understand. Then I won't disturb your rest. I'll go back to practice first. Su Mu nodded blankly and watched this strange female classmate walk out of the ward. Actually, you don't have to come tomorrow. Su Mu shouted towards Ji Qinghan's leaving back. Then he pinched his eyebrows with a headache. Why does this girl seem to be in need of friends? With my status, it's not suitable for me to have too many friends. This is not because Su Mu is so ruthless. If the years were peaceful, he would also like to live a life of good friends, good times, beautiful scenery, and the company of beautiful women. However, now that the human race is about to be exterminated, personal love between children is too luxurious for the current Su Mu. The human race will be extinct in 10 years. Are you out of your mind for still thinking about fancy things? There is no woman in my heart, so I draw my sword to the god of nature. Su Mu, you are the savior who wants to save the human race. Su Mu struggled to sit up from the bed. I tried to move my body. Although I stayed in bed for a week. But it seems that the body is not very stiff yet. I have wasted this week, and it's time to make up for it by practicing hard. He also had to find a way to return to the training camp as soon as possible. In this case, he could go to the battlefield of all races in advance and find a way to gain a wave of talents. One thing after another, it seems that all of a sudden a week's sleep has piled up together. Moreover, Su Mu felt an inexplicable feeling of guilt welling up in her heart due to the inexplicable loss of a week of practice time. He even wanted to commit suicide directly and fight back. But then I thought about it, and I was still asleep even after I turned back. This also reflects one of the drawbacks of death rollback. If he did not die, but fell into a coma, or was trapped in a place with no way to survive and no need to die, then Su Mu's death reversion is almost equivalent to being useless. In order to solve this shortcoming, you must find a way to get a talent that can ensure that when necessary, you can directly die by yourself and enter the rewind. There are so many things. Su Mu climbed off the bed with a sigh. His backpack and clothes were placed next to him. Walk to your backpack. Su Mu took out a small box. It was the tiger blood pill that Gao Shan gave him. Then, let's start seizing the time to practice. Previously, it was because the bone strengthening and muscle nourishing powder I had prepared was not used up yet. Therefore, this tiger blood pill has been kept in Su Mu's backpack and has not been taken out for use. I originally thought that when I go to the battlefield of 10,000 races, I can get some corpses of foreign races and prepare some new blood medicines and so on. Unexpectedly, a camp entrance examination made me lie in bed for a week. To put it bluntly, I wasted a week of my training time. This Longjing Martial Arts University must give itself some compensation, right? Su Mu didn't ask for much. A few thousand of qi and blood medicine like tiger blood pill was almost enough. When there is a chance, Su Mu will have to reflect to Instructor Ding. Shaked his head. Now is not the time to think about those things. Su Mu took out the tiger blood pill. A strange fragrance mixed with a faint smell of rust penetrated Su Mu's nose. Tiger blood pill is bright red in color. It doesn't look very tasty. But Su Mu herself doesn't care about these things. Without much hesitation, he put the tiger blood pill into his mouth. The next moment, he began to exercise directly on the ground according to the chapters of the 10,000 races body refining technique. Along with the tiger blood pill enters the stomach. A pure power suddenly poured into all his limbs. It seemed that because she had not practiced for a long time, Su Mu was still a little uncomfortable with the influx of this power. About half an hour after exercising, Su Mu collapsed to the ground sweating profusely. Why do you feel that the effectiveness of this tiger blood pill is more than 10 times that of Bushui powder? Su Mu was a little confused. At first, he thought it was because he had not practiced for too long. But this feeling was especially noticeable when he was running the Pattern Cloud Tiger chapter. He could clearly feel that when he was playing with the movements of Wen Yunhu Pian, the power of the tiger blood pill in his body seemed to be activated all of a sudden. Some of the medicinal power that had to be lost during the operation was almost completely absorbed into the cells of the body by Su Mu. Master, after reaching the first level warrior, take the qi and blood medicines made by some races that correspond to the chapter of the 10,000 races body refining technique that you practice. The absorption of the qi and blood medicines you take will be greatly enhanced. It seems that he heard Su Mu's inquiry. The deep blue in her mind gave Su Mu the answer. After hearing Shenlan's answer, Su Mu raised her eyebrows. I'm going, why didn't you tell me before? Master, you didn't ask. Several black lines appeared on Su Mu's forehead. Sure enough, Deep Blue is just a modified book of wisdom after all, and its level of wisdom is quite limited. It can only respond accordingly according to Su Mu's orders and inquiries. If Su Mu does not actively ask or issue commands, it cannot respond autonomously. Shaked his head. It's okay if I didn't know this before. But now that I know this, then Su Mu needs to pay more attention when configuring and selecting qi and blood medicines in the future. Shen Lan, help me find some qi and blood medicines that are most suitable for my current chapter of cultivation. Please note that they are what I can afford and can configure at the moment. Yes, Master. Start searching the pharmaceutical formula library. Ding, the search was successful. Master, I have found 2 formulas for you. One formula is the enhanced version of Tiger Blood Pill, Huyuan Dan, which is currently on the market, and the other formula is the pharmaceutical formula 9 years later, Xuanyuan Bear Blood Powder. The next moment, the contents of 2 potion formulas appeared in Su Mu's mind. After looking at the 2 potion formulas, Su Mu raised her eyebrows slightly. He has never doubted Shenlan's search ability. These 2 medicine formulas are indeed the most suitable for him at this stage. Moreover, the medicinal materials required are not very precious. The only things that need to be found are the tiger bones needed for the tiger yuan dan and the bear blood needed for the xuanyuan bear blood powder. Su Mu can purchase other medicinal materials in advance. As for these 2 medicinal materials, Su Mu can directly go to the battlefield of all races to find them purposefully. Once you find it, just configure it directly. Or maybe, just ask Instructor Ding directly for some, as compensation from Longjing Martial Arts University. Go on, start practicing meditation. Su Mu sat cross-legged on the hospital bed. 3 days passed quietly. Su Mu, think about it. In fact, even if you don't go to the next training, the school has already recognized your talent. Mr. Zhang is even ready to make an exception and directly promote you as an outstanding camper. Instructor Ding looked at Su Mu in front of him with a strange look on his face, but once you go to the battlefield of all races, there will be no room for regret. You will not be able to come back until the end of the training camp, and if you encounter danger, no one will go save you, no one will really save you this time. After all, the division of war in various areas on the battlefield of all races is very strict, and there are many dangers. No one can take care of you. If you are not careful, you may really be killed. On the battlefield of all races, genius training camps have a certain mortality rate. It's not just talk. As far as I know, just a few issues ago, one of the genius training camps on the battlefield of tens of thousands of races unfortunately died on the battlefield. My suggestion here is that if you simply stay at home and practice, if you want to go to the battlefield of 10,000 races, you will still have many opportunities to enter Longjing Martial Arts University in the future. You have just woken up not long ago. If you really want to, if something happens on the battlefield of all races, Mr. Zhang is afraid that he will be heartbroken to death. Obviously, Instructor Ding did not want Su Mu to return to the genius training camp to continue participating in subsequent training. In his opinion, it is a certainty that Su Mu will become an excellent camper. For others, further observational training may be required. But for Su Mu, a top prospect, there is no need to continue to observe. In this case, there is naturally no need to continue taking risks on the battlefield of all races. Instructor Ding, I've already thought about it. Besides, I haven't officially competed with other campers. To be honest, I just feel bad about getting a place as an outstanding camper. As for safety issues, Instructor Ding, don't worry, I will definitely take care of myself. Even if something goes wrong on the battlefield of all races, it is still an extremely honorable thing for me. As a warrior, if I can be lucky enough to win a battle with a foreign race, death, then would be his highest glory. Su Mu's tongue sparkled like a lotus flower, and she spat out some high-sounding words. He must go to this battlefield of all races. Are you kidding me? If he doesn't go to the battlefield of all races, how can he use his talents so much? What's the point of going there if there's no mortality? Looking at Su Mu's extremely determined and impassioned expression, Instructor Ding seemed to be infected as well. He nodded vigorously. Okay. Men like me should be like you, Su Mu. I think of those guys in our training camp who were clamoring to come back just a few days after they left. I'm so weird. I want to kick them to death. Su Mu, I will make arrangements for you right away. Prepare yourself tomorrow. Someone will make arrangements for you and send you to the battlefield of all races. In addition, I will also strive for the maximum compensation that the school can give you. Compensation. Tiger bones and bear blood, right. I will purchase it myself later. Geniuses like you are the hope of the human race. We must not let you suffer. Instructor Ding, that's so embarrassing. Su Mu smiled. There was an unexpected gain. Thank you, Instructor Ding. What are you talking about? Just remember one thing for me and come back to me safely. Good. Early in the morning, a lame middle-aged man in military uniform took Su Mu into an armored vehicle. There are now more than 50 days until the end of training camp. This time is neither long nor short for Su Mu. When we are in the car, the journey will be relatively long. So the lame middle-aged man on the side asked Su Mu to sleep first. Su Mu took this opportunity to practice the concept of gods and demons and the innate fetal breath method. I don't know how long I have been practicing. Su Mu also squinted for a while. Wait until you open your eyes again. He has arrived at the Eastern Theater of the 10,000 Races battlefield. You're awake. The lame middle-aged man on the side saw Su Mu waking up and said. Su Mu nodded while focusing on the surrounding scenery. Is this the Eastern Theater of the 10,000 Races battlefield? Su Mu looked around. Every 100 meters or so, there will be a watchtower about 20 meters high. Every 300 meters or so, there will be a towering building that looks like a watchtower. It seemed that he noticed Su Mu's gaze. The lame middle-aged man on the side explained, that is the Wengkong Tower. The watchtower is used to observe the situation in the entire Eastern War Zone and transmit information in a timely manner. The watchtower is mainly aimed at aliens in the air. Only some high-level warriors in the human race can do this without any external force, traveling in the air, so when dealing with aliens in the air, you often need the help of many things. Quote. The lame middle-aged man began to introduce some areas in the Eastern Theater to Su Mu. This is the weapons depot. The Eastern Theater Command has now basically achieved self-sufficiency in weapons and equipment. There are many casting students and masters from your university. That's the medicine area over there. In addition to providing many qi and blood medicines to frontline soldiers, some of them are also sold to the human race's rear, but the prices are relatively expensive. That's the slaughter area over there, responsible for processing some dying aliens or dissecting the bodies of aliens. That's the canteen. The entire Eastern Theater is completely a small city that has formed a complete system. Along the way, Su Mu could see soldiers in armor patrolling everywhere. The war zone is not like the human race's rear. Sometimes, extremely powerful alien races will break through the defense line and attack the war zone. The middle-aged soldier pointed to a ruined wall. This was originally an accommodation area, but a month ago, the black-winged Black Eagle broke through the west gate wall and came in to wreak havoc. However, it was quickly killed by Major Chu Xuan with a sword. It can be said that even though the Eastern Theater Command looks pretty good now, more than 50 years ago, the entire Eastern Theater Command was basically in the process of being continuously destroyed and then rebuilt. But since the 7 saints of the human race killed all the god kings of the 10 major god races 50 years ago, this situation has become much less common. When saying this, the lame middle-aged man seemed a little proud. Su Mu looked at the ground and buildings in the Eastern Theater with more or less traces of war with somewhat complicated eyes. It is hard to imagine what the situation in the entire Eastern War Zone was like more than 50 years ago, before the 7 saints of the human race killed the god kings of the 10 major divine races, and before the human race gained the upper hand. All the soldiers on the front line live in fear and worry of not knowing when the aliens will invade. But even though he was extremely frightened and worried, he still had to use his own flesh and blood to build a steel city wall behind the human race. The Eastern Theater Command indeed looks much calmer now than it did more than 50 years ago. It is only extremely accidental for foreigners to attack. Even if they do attack, they will be quickly killed by the masters of the human race. However, if others are unclear, will Su Mu be unclear? The calm now is just the calm before the storm. Who would have thought that a person who had resisted all races for tens of thousands of years would perish after 60 years of peace? 50 years ago, the human race gained the upper hand, but 10 years later, the human race was on the verge of extinction. Thinking of this, Su Mu clenched her fists. Let out a long breath. The car drove for a while and finally arrived at Su Mu's destination. The car stopped at a campsite and Su Mu got off the car. Just getting ready to walk into the campground. The lame middle-aged man in the car suddenly stopped Su Mu. Young man. Su Mu was stunned for a moment, stopped and looked at the lame middle-aged man. Since you can enter the genius training camp, at least it means that your talent is very good. Train well and pay attention to safety. The future of the human race depends on young people like you. He smiled at Su Mu. I will. Su Mu nodded towards him. The lame middle-aged man also nodded. Then he drove the car towards the rear of the human race. For people like him, because of his physical disability, it is almost impossible for him to go back to the battlefield. He could have chosen to go directly back to the human race to do other things and enjoy the rest of his life. But in the end I chose such a job. I am afraid that I am reluctant to leave this battlefield and want to finally contribute my own strength to this battlefield. Watching the armored vehicle gradually go away, Su Mu slowly walked into the camp. After registering your identity, a soldier asked Su Mu to wait outside the camp. While Su Mu was waiting, several soldiers nearby seemed to be sizing up Su Mu, a newcomer who suddenly came to the camp. Although he didn't say anything, the gaze that fell on Su Mu made Su Mu feel a little uncomfortable. Su Mu probably had some guesses about what they were thinking. Training camp has started for more than a week. At this time, it was obviously strange to suddenly intervene. After Su Mu waited for a long time, a young man in military uniform finally came slowly to Su Mu. Are you the new camper? The young man glanced at Su Mu. Su Mu followed the young man. As the young man walked, he also began to talk to Su Mu about something. Since you are here, let me briefly explain the rules here. This is a temporary camp set up by the Longjing Martial Arts University Genius Training Camp. I am Xiao Lin, the military leader of the temporary camp. I am responsible for assisting your genius training camp. In the remaining time of the training and assessment mission, if you don't want to look too ugly when you leave, you'd better go to the battlefield a few more times to ensure that you earn at least 100 merit points. In the final camp assessment, merit points are the most important criteria for judging. While walking with Su Mu, Su Mu has already seen some campers from the talent training camp. And those campers obviously noticed Su Mu. Suddenly, everyone's faces were filled with shock, and some people couldn't help but scream. Su. It's Su. He is back. You seem famous. Look at the reactions of the campers next to you. The young man frowned slightly. He didn't know much about Su. All we know is that Su seemed to have been in a coma for a week due to an injury during the camp entrance examination, so she arrived belatedly. However, in his opinion, since they were all injured during the camp entrance examination, they were obviously not particularly outstanding talents, but looking at this, it seemed that he had made a wrong judgment. Thinking of this, the young man couldn't help but look at Su again. This is where you'll live. There's still space inside. Just find a bed and put your things there. Although the young man didn't like people like Su who came in through the back door, he still did not forget his responsibilities. He took Su to a dormitory building. Next, let me give you a brief introduction to the main training items of your genius training camp. As I said before, the assessment standard is mainly your merit points. The ways to obtain merit points are divided into 3 types: individual, squad and legion. I'll start with the legion. It means that you are organized into various legions and participate in large-scale battles. However, this situation is relatively rare. Even we do not encounter several large-scale battles a year. However, in large-scale battles, the merit points obtained will be 2 to 10 times the usual number. In order not to lose combat effectiveness in large-scale battles, the Eastern Theater will conduct a large-scale battle performance every month. You have missed one last month. Yes, the next time should be in half a month. Secondly, there are teams and individuals. This is the main way to fight against alien races in the Eastern Theater. The launch of large-scale battles requires a combination of factors from all aspects. On the battlefield of all races, the battle between humans and alien races is more some small and medium-sized campaigns. Small and medium-sized campaigns will be carried out by various teams and individuals in the Eastern Theater. The young man said and paused. You should have learned in high school courses that on the battlefield of all races, when there are usually no large-scale battles, soldiers operate in small teams. Of course, if there are some special people who travel alone and are more confident in themselves will also choose to hunt aliens and perform tasks individually on the battlefield of thousands of races. However, we do not encourage this method. After all, an individual's power is limited, and he will die if he encounters danger. The chances will also be greatly increased, and if you join a team, with the help of some veterans of the team, you can grow faster. At the same time, team cooperation is also more conducive to completing some more difficult tasks, unless you really have individual combat capabilities. Be strong enough, otherwise, joining a team will definitely be your first choice. But it's a pity for you that you came too late. The recruitment time for most teams has passed. If you want to join the team, you can go to the mission hall to try your luck. Some teams died a lot after performing missions. Companions will take the opportunity to recruit some individuals or members of other teams to join the team in the mission hall. After listening to the young man's explanation, Su's eyes lit up. What if I had to choose an individual? The young man glanced at him, and a hint of an expression flashed across his face. You geniuses from the genius training camp always think that you are the proud ones. Almost everyone has this idea, but after actually completing a few missions alone, most of them choose to join the team. Some of them even he died just as he was completing his mission. If you really want to use your personal identity to complete tasks and obtain merit points, it's up to you. If you are an individual, you don't need to register or anything else. You just have to participate in the large-scale battle exercises every month. You can just go to the mission hall to get the mission. One thing I want to remind you is that although you are members of the Genius Training Camp, when you go to the battlefield of all races, you are just ordinary soldiers. The human race has never lacked geniuses, but there is a lack of true genius, and only those who survive to the end are true geniuses. What the young man said, Su nodded in agreement. Indeed, over countless years, there have definitely been many geniuses emerging from the human race, but similarly, there have also been many who died along the way. If you can't survive, no matter how talented you are, it's of no use. Fighting against all races is an inevitable part of every human race warrior. For the geniuses in the Genius Training Camp, what they have to face will definitely be an even more terrifying alien race. Therefore, it is necessary to experience the terror of alien races earlier and to fight against alien races on the battlefield of all races. Death is inevitable. If you are afraid of death and worried about death, you will not fight. Then no matter how good the talent is, it is nothing more than mediocrity. I have said almost what I need to say. This is the exclusive badge of your genius training camp. When you return to the war zone from the battlefield of all races, it will be very troublesome if you don't have the badge. You must wear it on your chest on weekdays. If you or if the patrol team finds that the badge is not worn, it will also be investigated. At the same time, the badge also has automatic positioning, help, and poison functions. I won't tell you more about the first two. The last one is just in case. If you are really captured by all races. If you don't want to suffer too much, you can just shout out the secret command behind the badge, and the badge will directly inject powerful poison into your body. This is why the badge is usually worn on the left chest. Reason. This function is not only available in your badges, but also in every soldier's badge. As for why it is designed this way, I believe you should have learned it in high school courses. In addition, wearing this badge is also to distinguish you from some ordinary soldiers. There are still some preferential treatment for geniuses like you. The young man took out a green badge and put it directly on Su Mu's chest. Su Mu also looked at the badge. What he is more concerned about is the poison function of this badge. If necessary, this function is very useful for Su Mu. This badge can be used as a temporary replacement until the talent to commit suicide is found. This also provides an idea for Su Mu. Before he finds the talent to commit suicide, he can also make some self-made poison that will seal his throat and put it on his body. If he is about to be caught, he will die directly. Su Mu is not afraid of death, she is just afraid of being caught and dying. However, this problem should be solved when Su Mu finds the talent to commit suicide in the future. Regarding this suicide talent, Su Mu has already found a lot of information on Deep Blue. After tens of thousands of tribes fight on the battlefield, this is the first thing he will do. The mistake of being in a coma for a week cannot happen again this time. I've pretty much said what needs to be said. What happens next depends on you. The young man glanced at Su Mu. Then he turned around and left. Just after the young man left, Su Mu also hurriedly found a bed to put the automatic luggage. Immediately, he quickly walked out of the dormitory building. But as soon as I left the dormitory building, he noticed countless eyes falling on him. Many people were wearing blood-stained battle armor, and they had obviously just come off the battlefield of all races. After seeing Su Mu, many people watched and talked with their arms crossed. Su Mu didn't care, he just looked at a huge screen in the center of the temporary camp. On the screen, there seemed to be a ranking of the current merit points of all the talent training camp campers. First place, Square Ball, merit points, 1652. Second place, Guan Jia, merit points, 1025. Third place. As he was watching, a familiar voice sounded. Su Mu, you are finally back. As soon as these words came out, not only Su Mu, but many people around him also looked at the speaker. The person who came was carrying a foreign head, with blood on his face and a square ball with a war blade stuck in his waist. Judging from his appearance, it was obvious that he hurried over from the battlefield of all races after hearing the news of Su Mu's arrival. Square Ball. Su Mu raised her eyebrows slightly. Although this guy is brainless and a bit reckless, he is still a bloody man. During the previous assessment, he was also the first one to jump out and confront that instructor Wang. But it's a pity that he is not very strong and was beaten to death. Fang Chocho heard Su Mu call his name. His eyelids twitched, and then he stared at Su Mu coldly. Su Mu. The battle between you and me is not over yet. But I won't take advantage of you. You came to the training camp more than a week later than me. If you still miss the golden week, then I will wait for you for a month and a half. After 1.5 months, we will have a duel. After that, he turned around and walked out of the camp regardless of whether Su Mu agreed or not. On the side, the blonde woman following him held her forehead with a headache, then nodded towards Su Mu, and quickly followed Fang Chocho. Su Mu looked at the two people walking away and smiled helplessly. This guy Fang Chocho is really stubborn. If he wants to challenge himself, he must challenge himself. Judging from his posture, I'm afraid Su Mu won't be able to agree even if he refuses. However, one thing is that although his behavior is a bit reckless and impulsive, his talent is still quite good. Just now, Su Mu also checked his panel for a while. Name: Fang Chocho. Vitality value: 823.65. Middle stage of first level warrior. Physical refining technique: Qingfeng physical refining technique. Breathing technique: breathing technique of breathing the breeze. Talent: S level, wind god. In more than a week, he was promoted from the early stage of a first level warrior to the middle stage of a first level warrior. This speed is not unpleasant. Of course, it may be because I just entered the training camp, enjoyed a lot of resources, and improved quickly in the early stage. What surprised Su Mu was that Shenlin had already analyzed his talent. It is estimated that he showed a little bit when he faced Instructor Wang before. Then it was recorded by Deep Blue. Regarding the talent of Fengshen, Su Mu also got the answer from Shenlin. In fact, in short, it is his B-level talent, the enhanced version of the Supreme VIP of wind control. If someone with only wind control talent encountered Square Ball, even if he was a level higher than him, he would probably be crushed by him. This is the talent of the God of Wind, absolute control over general wind manipulation. If you have the chance, you can find a way to get this talent from him. Shaked his head. Think no more. Su Mu walked straight outside the temporary camp. He must quickly go to the mission hall to receive the next mission, and then go to the battlefield of all races. He has not forgotten the first purpose of his trip. Find some talent that would help him achieve his own suicide. Just after Su Mu left, everyone in the training camp finally couldn't help but start talking. Hey, Fang Chocho wants to challenge Su Mu. I don't know who is stronger, Su Mu or Fang Chocho. Before, Su Mu simply crushed all of us. But more than a week has passed, and everyone's strength has improved. Both Fang Chocho and Guanjia have become he as a warrior in the middle stage of the first realm, and I don't know if Su Mu can catch up. Who says otherwise? If Su Mu came in the same batch as us, then I would definitely side with Su Mu without hesitation. Su Mu was so amazing during the assessment. She is also an early stage warrior of the first realm. To be able to score as many points as Ji Qinghan and Fang Chocho, he must be quite good in terms of strength. However, he lay in the hospital for more than a week and missed the golden week when he first entered the training camp. He wanted to catch up with Fang Chocho. It's probably impossible to bridge the gap between the two. Indeed, more than a week is neither long nor short, but it is the well-known golden week. There are many improvements among our group. It is a pity that Su Mu missed it. Obviously, not many people in the training camp are optimistic about Su Mu. And at the same time Su Mu went to the mission hall, wanting to accept the mission and go directly to the battlefield of all races. In a dense forest somewhere on the battlefield of all races, several people in armor sat around the campfire, taking big bites of barbecued meat. Little Guan, come here and eat some. This is the meat of the golden-thorned porcupine. The meat is extremely delicious and the quantity is extremely rare. If you return to the rear of the human race, you may not be able to eat it even if you want to. The red-haired young man who was resting on a big tree beside him nodded. I know, I'll be here soon. He looked at the young man aside and asked, is the news true? Su Mu is back. Of course, didn't the third child go back to rest after being injured? It was him who sent the news. Su Mu seems to have been discharged from the hospital. It is said that Fang Chocho rushed from the battlefield of all races as soon as he heard the news that Su Mu was back. He went back and challenged Su Mu to a fight in 1.5 months. The red-haired young man smiled when he heard this. This is in line with his character, but his vision is too narrow. Although Su Mu is a little more talented than us, he is also limited. He missed the golden week at the beginning of the training camp. Regardless of his own in terms of strength, or in terms of merit, it may be difficult to catch up with us. Quote, Su Mu was indeed very dazzling during the camp entrance examination. However, the camp entrance examination is a camp entrance examination after all. It is too watery. If you can kill a mid-level alien, you can get 1,000 points. Su Mu his strength is estimated to be around that level. Now that he is on the battlefield of all races, it is not that easy to obtain merit points. You must know that during the golden week of the training camp, there is a bonus of 10 times the points. In this way, we only got a little over 1,000 merit points. In the remaining 50 days or so, it may take a lot of effort for Su Mu to catch up with the merit points. Quote, For him, he doesn't care about Suemu's strength. What he cares about is the quota of outstanding campers in the end. It is said that there are only 3 quotas for outstanding campers in this period, and the little princess of the Ji family is already destined to have one. Fang Chocho probably won't be able to run anymore, and all he can fight for is the last spot. The appearance of Suemu will undoubtedly bring him a certain threat. It would be fine if it were an ordinary person, but Suemu crushed everyone during the camp entrance examination. So when he learned that Suemu was back, he was a little worried. But he soon comforted himself. No matter how powerful Suemu is, he shouldn't be able to get more merit points than him in about 50 days, right? Little Guan, if you don't come back, you'll be eaten up. Coming. At the same time, Suemu also came to the door of the mission hall. According to the data obtained from Deep Blue, among the talents that can commit suicide that he can currently obtain, there are 3 main ones that are most suitable for him. And the mission he wants to take will also be located among the 3 races with 3 talents. There were many soldiers coming in and out of the mission hall. Some soldiers' faces were full of dejection, while others were arrogant. When Suemu appeared, the green badge on her chest immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people even started talking quietly. Why haven't you seen the genius in this training camp? Indeed, everyone must have met those geniuses in the training camp when we were selecting the team. It seems like this new guy is meeting them for the first time. I don't know, but it seems that his strength is relatively average, and his health level is probably that of a mid-level warrior who is just starting out. Hehe, I know. I heard it when I was drinking with my brother before. It seems that there will be a genius training camper coming from the back of the human race today. It should be him. What the hell, isn't their genius training camp started more than a week ago? Why are they sending people here? This time is a bit wrong, isn't it? Besides, coming here at this time, how can you compare with those geniuses who have spent a golden week on the battlefield of all races? I know a little bit of the inside story. It is said that during the camp entrance examination, he was injured and fell into a coma. He was recuperating behind the human race until now. Ah, he is so unlucky, isn't he? But now, can he still catch up with the others? I heard that the elimination rate in the genius training camp is extremely high. He is 1 golden week behind others, and he wants to catch up. Is it a bit troublesome? The comments from the people around him were clearly transmitted to Suemu's ears. Suemu could only shake her head helplessly and ignore it. Come to the window of the mission hall. The person who received him was a man who looked a little tired. The man raised his eyes and glanced at Suemu, his eyes lingering on the green badge on Suemu's chest. Then he pointed at the screen in front of him. Report your name to me, and then you can choose the task you want to choose. The tasks you choose for the genius training camp can span up to 2 levels, and you can take up to 3 tasks at a time. The middle-aged man finished speaking. Tasks divided by levels began to appear on the screen in front of Suemu. The difficulty level of tasks is similar to the talent level. The highest is SSS level missions, and the lowest is F level. And each task has a minimum strength recommendation. Generally speaking, people like Suemu who have just entered the battlefield of the 10,000 races are considered new recruits. Among the merit levels on the battlefield, they belong to the lowest F level. The only ones that can be accepted are F-level missions. But because Suemu is a member of the Genius Training Camp, therefore, he can receive D-level missions at most. Completing an F-level mission ranges from 0.01 to 0.1 merit. According to the rules of the Eastern Theater Command, if Suemu wants to be promoted from F-level to E-level, the merit points to be earned must reach 1,000 times the highest merit points obtained in F-level missions, which is 100 merit points. If you accept a D-level mission, the merit points for a D-level mission range from 1 to 10. In other words, Suemu must accept at least 10 D-level missions before he can raise his merit level to E-level and accept higher-level missions. Suemu glanced at the tasks on the screen. To his surprise, he found a mission that fit his goals. As for the remaining 2 missions, just choose 2 D-level missions with high merit points. All 3 are D-level missions. Generally, the recommended strength for D-level missions is around a 2nd-level warrior. If you are not strong enough, it is best not to show off. If you die, no one will collect your body. Seeing that the three choices Su Mu had chosen were all D-level, the man couldn't help but frown. Apparently he felt that Su Mu was overestimating his abilities. But Su Mu said, "Just choose these three." See Su Mu insist. The man didn't try to persuade him anymore, he just nodded and said, "Okay." Soon, all three tasks were taken over by Su Mu. Su Mu walked out of the mission hall quickly. "Go get your armor and weapons. Members of the genius training camp like them can receive armors and weapons that are 2 levels above their own level. What Su Mu can currently receive is naturally D-level armor and weapons. After choosing a long sword that suits you, Su Mu walked directly towards the door. Throughout the Eastern War Zone, there will be special vehicles that can transport you directly to certain areas on the battlefield of all races." Just after Su Mu left the mission hall, several soldiers came to the window where Su Mu was staying just now, with a playful expression on their faces. "Old Lee, what level of mission did that kid choose? After all, he is also a member of the genius training camp. At least one of the 3 missions is an E-level mission, right?" The man named Lao Li glanced at a few people, then shrugged and said, "You guessed wrong. He chose 3 missions, and all 3 missions were D-level." "All 3 missions are D-level." Several soldiers frowned. This boy, it's true, a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. In order to catch up with others, he worked too hard, didn't he? For D-level missions, the recommended strength is a 2nd-level warrior. Even they don't dare to choose casually. If you are not careful enough, you will die. And Su Mu just now actually chose 3 D-level tasks. It was really beyond their expectations. Su Mu naturally didn't know what happened in the mission hall. At this moment, he was sitting in a special car heading to the battlefield of all races. There were many soldiers wearing armor like him in the car, but they basically acted as a small team. Su Mu looked out the window. In his mind, he was thinking about the 3 tasks he chose. Among the 3 missions, Su Mu didn't care much about the other 2 D-level missions. They were just killing some aliens with the strength of 2nd realm warriors. Judging from his current strength, coupled with the violent wind sword technique with the violent wind sword intention, foreigners with the strength of 2nd-level warriors can also fight. What Su Mu cares about most is the D-level mission related to the suicide talent he wants to find. The location of this mission is a place called Snake Valley on the battlefield of all races. There are dozens of snake species inside. One of the suicidal talents that Su Mu is looking for comes from one of the races called the 10,000 Poison Kite. A-level talent, Poison Corpse. Hiss. At this moment, Su Mu has been searching in Snake Valley for more than 10 hours. Snake Valley is about 100 miles east of the Eastern War Zone. In some areas that are relatively close to each other, there are generally no relatively strong alien races, and they are just suitable for some weak recruits to adapt and experience. Because there are many different species of snakes in it, it was named Snake Valley by the humans. Inside Snake Valley, you can smell a pungent fishy smell everywhere. Some not-alien corpses can also be seen on the ground. The biggest difference between the alien race and the human race is that no matter how hungry the human race is, they generally will not eat their own kind. But for alien races, let alone different races, even if they are the same race, cannibalism will sometimes occur. Except for some large-scale battles, in normal times, most of the middle and low-level alien races actually fight against humans or other alien races on the basis of race. Only advanced alien races with enough wisdom will clearly regard humans as opponents. The middle and low-level alien races usually launch large-scale battles against the human race under the command of these high-level alien races. He frowned. Su Mu slightly blocked her nose with her arm and walked slowly towards the depths of Snake Valley. Hiss. After taking only 2 steps, I encountered a long snake covered in black markings. Race: Black-banded kite. Vitality value: 435. Middle stage of 1st level warrior. Talent: D level, Poison Fang. Habits: living in Snake Valley, the battlefield of all races. Weakness: 7 inches. Brush. Su Mu raised her hand and struck a sword. The long sword flashed a cold light in the air. The next moment, the black-banded kite was cut in half by Su Mu. Su Mu picked up the body of the black-banded kite, looked at it, threw it aside, and continued to move forward carefully. You must go back at least once. Although the corpses of these snakes are quite valuable and can be used to make many medicines, to Su Mu, they are just a bubble that will disappear soon. Simply threw it aside. Generally speaking, the 10,000 poison crite is an extremely special existence among snake aliens. It is so poisonous that it can even kill itself. There should be no other snake aliens in the place where it is. Quote. Brush. He raised his hand and solved another snake. Su Mu began to recall the information about the 10,000 poisonous crite in her mind. After thinking for a while, his hand was raised slightly. As he raised his hand, a blue power dispersed slightly into the surrounding air. Along with the dispersion of cyan power, breezes began to blow from all directions in Su Mu. Comes with the breeze. Su Mu also closed her eyes. Various smells in the air penetrated his nose. The stench of corpses. A slightly fishy earthy smell. There are also special smells emanating from various snakes. There are fewer snake tribes in these directions. Su Mu opened her eyes and looked in one of the directions. Then his figure flashed and quickly flew in that direction. I don't know how long I've been gone. Su Mu came to an empty place. There was still some blood stains on the ground. Obviously, a foreigner had just eaten here. The long sword in Su Mu's hand swung. Along with his thoughts, flames suddenly ignited from his sword. Still hiding, Su Mu's long sword suddenly swung away. A tree fell down. The next moment, a long snake with a black body, covered with glowing scales, 3 to 4 meters long, and a sharp horn on the top of its head appeared in Su Mu's sight. Race: Black Horned Scale Snake Clan. Vitality value: 835. Late stage of first level warrior. Talent: Level A, Poison Miasma. Habits: living in Snake Valley, the battlefield of all races. Weakness: one-horned. After seeing the appearance of this snake clearly, Su Mu was a little disappointed. The black-horned scale snake can be regarded as the king-level race among the snake tribe in Snake Valley. It's no wonder that, like the 10,000 poisonous crite, there are no other snakes nearby. Although I am a little disappointed, after all I have come, I still have an A-level talent, so I can't come here in vain, right? Come on, little black-horned snake, contribute your talents. A-level talent, Poison Miasma. Poison Miasma. A circle of deadly poisonous miasma is created around the body that is enough to poison enemies that are a large level beyond itself. The power and scope of the poisonous miasma will increase as the strength increases. The reason why he copied this talent was mainly because Su Mu considered killing enemies on the battlefield in the future. If he has such a large-scale lethal talent, it will definitely be convenient and save a lot of trouble for him. In addition, Su Mu also has the ability to control wind. The combination of the two can definitely maximize the power of the poisonous miasma. After copying the miasma talent, Su Mu began to massacre the aliens in Snake Valley. Wherever the poisonous miasma passes, even these snakes that were poisonous themselves fell down one after another. I don't know how long I have been wandering in the Snake Valley. Su Mu has just copied another B-level talent, Poison Enhancement. This talent is mainly used in conjunction with poison miasma. With the cooperation of this talent, the poisonous miasma that could only poison at most one large realm enemy could poison at least one large realm plus 1 or 2 smaller realms. In other words, today's Su Mu is still capable of fighting even against enemies in the early and middle stages of the second realm. Just when Su Mu was a little tired and was sitting next to a big tree to rest, a breeze blew. A strange fragrance, mixed in the breeze, penetrated Su Mu's nose. Su Mu, who has super 5 senses, immediately smelled the extraordinary fragrance. Just by smelling the smell, Su Mu felt a slight fluctuation in her blood. This discovery made him instantly happy. You know, there are many heavenly and earthly treasures and top-quality medicinal materials on the battlefield of all races. Su Mu stood up suddenly. He took a few deep breaths in the direction of the breeze. After determining the source of the scent, Su Mu held up her long sword and headed towards the direction of the smell. I don't know how long I've been gone. As Su Mu gets closer and closer, the strange fragrance became stronger and stronger. In addition to this strange fragrance, the smell was also mixed with a fishy smell that gradually became stronger. Following this direction, we walked about 10 meters more. Su Mu finally vaguely saw a long bush hanging on the mountain wall. On the bushes, there are several bunches of crystal clear and bright red fruits hanging. Sure enough, after seeing the fruit, the introduction about the fruit immediately appeared in front of Su Emu's eyes. Treasures of heaven and earth, snake berry. Efficacy, improve chi and blood. Location, often found in places where snakes are rampant. That's when the snake berry was discovered. A voice interrupted Su Emu's joy. Hiss. Su Mu looked in the direction. Suddenly the smile on his face grew wider. The one who made the sound was a 5-meter-long snake with a brown body and a circle of gold rings on its body. The long snake spit out the letter, slowly crawled past the snake berry, slightly arched its body, and stared at Su Mu. Poisonous Krite. Race, 10,000 Poison Krite Tribe. Vitality Value, 2,586. Early stage for second level warrior. Talent, Level B, Death Coil. Habits, living in Snake Valley, the battlefield of all races. Weakness, eyes, although it is not the talent Su Mu needs. But since there is a 10,000 poisonous Krite here, it means that there are others of the same kind around. As long as we find the habitat of the 10,000 poisonous Krite, everything that follows will be easy to handle. Su Mu laughed loudly. Holding the sword, the flames on the sword instantly ignited. The next moment, he slashed directly at the 10,000 poisonous golden Krite snake. Wild Wind Sword Technique. The Wave of Sword Chance. A-level talent, Mental Bewitchment. A-level talent, Poison Miasma. Although the strength of the 10,000 poison golden Krite has reached the early stage of the second level warrior. But for Su Mu, there is actually not much difference from other snake tribes. In just a moment, the 10,000 poisonous Krite died under Su Emu's sword. And at the same time, the 10,000 poisonous Krite died. Another 10,000 poisonous Krite appeared in Su Emu's sight. This is the haunt of the 10,000 poisonous Krite tribe, and there must be more than one 10,000 poisonous Krite. Su Emu's face lit up with joy. The light blue interface in his eyes reappeared. Race, 10,000 Poison Krite Tribe. Talent, D level, Poison Fang. No, die. Race, 10,000 Poison Krite Tribe. Talent, C level, Poisonous Blood. No. Die. After killing more than a dozen of the 10,000 poisonous Krite snakes one after another. Su Mu still hasn't found the suicidal talent that suits her. Just when Su Mu had a headache, an interface suddenly flashed before his eyes. Race, 10,000 Poison Krite Tribe. Vitality Value, 886. Late stage of first level warrior. Talent, Level A, Poison Corpse. Habits, living in Snake Valley, the battlefield of all races. Weakness, eyes. No. Wait a minute, yes. Su Mu looked towards the 10,000 poisonous Krite snake. This 10,000 poisonous golden Krite is not very strong. This is also reflected well in terms of body shape. This 10,000 poisonous Krite looks to be only about 2 meters long. The thickness is about 3 fingers wide. However, it does not matter whether one is strong or not. The decision is yours. Contribute your talents to me. The 10,000 poisonous Krite obviously didn't see the excitement in Su Emu's eyes. It just stared at Su Mu angrily, then arched its body and rushed towards Su Mu. In its sight, this human race who looked like a god of murder suddenly dropped the long sword in his hand. Lie down on the ground. The 10,000 poisonous Krite couldn't control that much. Seeing that Su Mu didn't attack it, it bit Su Emu's neck directly. And Su Mu was gradually eroded by its toxins, and her breath gradually disappeared. Call. He raised his hand and casually chopped down a snake. Su Mu clicked on her properties panel and checked it out. Name, Su Mu. Vitality Value, 451.75. Middle stage of first level warrior. Opening parenthesis. Old rules, omitting repetitions and showing the necessary ones. Talents, X level, Copy After Death, SSS level, 12 hours of rewind after death, Book of Wisdom, Sword Heart is Clear, a level, Makeover, Spiritual Bewitchment, Eye of True Seeing, Healing Light, Super 5 Senses, Red Flame Bloodline, Poisonous Miasma, Poisonous Corpse, B level, Spiritual Strengthening, Wood Control, Wind Control, Poison Strengthening. A level talent, Poison Corpse. Poison Corpse. It can be actively triggered. After being triggered, the vitality will be lost rapidly. In a very short period of time, the whole body will be covered with horrific toxins. The toxins will be spread all over the body and it will die completely and become a toxin-filled toxin. This process is irreversible. Once triggered, you will definitely die. The toxins produced can kill enemies that are at most 2 levels higher than yourself. It's coming, it's coming. It followed the 10,000 poisonous crite. Finally got the talent I wanted. Su Mu is in a good mood. With this talent, Su Mu basically doesn't have to worry about being caught or having her movements restricted. As long as Su Mu's thoughts move, he will basically die. With this talent, Su Mu can act boldly in the future. There were many things he didn't dare to do before. On the one hand, he considers that if he offends others, they will not kill him, but will lock him up and torture him severely, making him unable to live or die. On the other hand, I am also worried that this will involve my family. It's okay for Su Mu to suffer a little, but if it affects his family, he will feel a little sorry. But now with this A-level talent, Poison Corpse, it's completely different. Su Mu is not afraid of being caught or dying. Take a long breath. This suicide talent is just the first talent Su Mu has prepared. And this talent is not completely perfect. If Su Mu falls into a coma due to serious injuries like before, then this talent will not be used. So Su Mu has to get a second suicide talent. However, at least today's task is completed. Get the snake berry directly, and then after completing the other 2D level tasks, go back and configure the medicine to increase your strength, and increase your merit level as soon as possible. Su Mu quickly arranged the next things in her mind. The reason why we need to increase the merit level as soon as possible is to prepare for the second suicide talent. Su Mu's figure quickly shuttled through the Snake Valley. A poisonous miasma surrounded him. Countless aliens were inadvertently killed by Su Mu. In just a moment, Su Mu arrived at the place where the snake berry was. After killing some 10,000 poisonous crite snakes, Su Mu got the snake berry successfully. Due to the size of the backpack, she only put some of the more precious parts into the backpack. But even so, his backpack was already piled up like a hill. It's time to go back. 2 hours later, Mission Hall. Old Lee, do you think that boy will die on the battlefield of all races? It's hard to say. The man shook his head. D-level missions are not that easy to do. Didn't you kill a person last time to complete a mission of killing a 10,000 poisonous crite? That kid is just 1 people, and one of the D-level mission targets is the 10,000 poisonous crite. If you encounter someone with stronger strength, it will be a bit dangerous at 80%. I hope this kid can be wise and ask for help in time. After all, he is a genius. Indeed, the 10,000 poison crite is really scary. It's really awesome. When we were a team of 10 people, we fought against a 10,000 poison crite in the early stage of the second realm. There was also a warrior in the early stage of the second realm in the team. The result was that we were stunned. It killed a person. That poison is really poisonous. Just chatting, the 2 of them suddenly felt that all the light in front of them was blocked by something. Hello, all hand in the mission. The 2 of them looked in the direction of the blocked light source. They saw a young man standing in front of them carrying a backpack that was 4 or 5 times bigger than him and was like a hill. The young man threw out a huge backpack, then nuzzled at the man. The vouchers for the 3 missions are all here. Please register them for me, and then I have to take on 3 more missions. Good. When he saw the cloth bag thrown by Su Mu, the man didn't waste any time and immediately checked it for Su Mu. The gall of the 10,000 poisonous crite. The teeth of the iron-backed tiger. The horns of a black bull with red eyes. No problem, all 3 tasks are fine. Su Mu, right. I'll help you register right away. The man didn't waste any time and quickly helped Su Mu register the task and complete it. For 3D level missions, Su Mu received a total of 28 merit points. At this rate, it is estimated that he can be promoted from F level to E level in a day or 2. Soon I took on 3 more D level missions. Su Mu is preparing to leave the mission hall. But after taking only 2 steps, he turned around again and said, "Sorry, could you please ask where these alien corpses should be sold? There should be a special place for processing them in the war zone, right?" After leaving the mission hall, walk about 300 meters north. The man replied, "Okay, thanks." Su Mu nodded. Then he strode out of the mission hall. Just after Su Mu left, suddenly, more than a dozen people rushed to the window where the man was. Let's go, Lao Li, what's the background of that kid? The alien corpses in his backpack, my god, there are more than 10,000 poisonous crite snakes alone. That's not true. The backpack is about to burst. Many alien corpses are tied directly to the outside of the backpack. Do you know what I saw? The corpses of 3 silver-tailed leopards. And their strength is at least in the early stage of the second realm. That guy looks like he's only in the middle stage. Stop talking, I'm a little messy. Old Lee, you really made a mistake. I'm afraid this kid is really a jerk. What the hell, look at the corpse of the 10,000 poisonous crite used as a rope to tie up the corpses of other aliens on the outside of his backpack. I also used a dozen of them. It was so difficult for me to kill the 10,000 poisonous crite, but in front of this kid, it was as if I killed them casually. Lao Li, who was sitting in front of the window, nodded in shock. Stop arguing. He glared at the dozen or so people gathered around his window. If you have some spare time to chat, why not practice more and take on more tasks? As for the kid you mentioned, he is a real genius. As he spoke, Lao Li glanced at the screen in front of him, and then said, do you know how long it took that boy to complete these 3D level tasks from taking on them? Lao Li's words immediately attracted everyone's attention. When everyone's eyes turned to him, Lao Li slowly said, less than 3 hours. Moreover, he is still a personal mission. Less than 3 hours. A personal mission. None of the soldiers here have ever taken on AD level mission, so they naturally know the difficulty of AD level mission. The recommended strength for D level missions is to start as a second level warrior. But when it is actually completed, everyone will actually choose to complete it with the team. Even so, from exploring the terrain, to finding the mission target, to finally completing the mission and successfully retreating, all these links are put together, and I can't get out of there for several days. In some cases, it would take a day or two just to find the mission target. But that kid, 3D level tasks were completed in 3 hours. An average of 1 hour per D level mission. What the hell? The soldiers here all felt like they had been slapped hard in the face. This is so outrageous. For a moment, the soldiers present were speechless. After a while, a soldier finally asked, Old Lee, what's the name of the camper in this genius training camp? I think this guy will definitely be one of the top figures in the human race in the future. Everyone looked at Lao Li again. Lao Li said, you talk too much, don't you? Don't ask questions that shouldn't be asked. Ah, I'm so excited, aren't I? Everyone looked at Su Mu's leaving figure, knowing that one day in the future, they would definitely hear this young man's name from somewhere. At the same time, after Su Mu sold all the alien corpses. So I bought some medicinal materials and rented a training room in the war zone. The tiger bones and bear blood I applied for from Longjing Martial Arts University have not been sent yet. Before that, Su Mu had to find a way to prepare some qi and blood medicines by herself. Fortunately, Su Mu got a lot of snake berries in Snake Valley and prepared them into qi and blood medicines. It should be enough for Su Mu to use for a while. Come to the training room. Su Mu quickly combined the snake berries she obtained, some medicinal materials and the corpses of foreign races, and finally prepared them into qi and blood medicines. There are about 10 sets of qi and blood medicines prepared with snake berries. It is enough for Su Mu to use for 3 to 5 days. In 3 to 5 days, the school's compensation should be coming. This time Su Mu stayed in bed for a week and missed the golden week of the training camp. The compensation provided by the school for this was extremely generous. Su Mu was even looking forward to it. Shaked his head. Didn't think twice about it. Su Mu directly took a pair of qi and blood medicine made from snake berries, and then began to practice the 10,000 races body refining technique. Inside the training room, Su Mu's heavy breathing soon came out. I don't know how long it took. Su Mu lay on the ground a little limply. This snake berry is indeed a natural treasure that can improve your qi and blood. Su Mu, who was lying on the ground, couldn't help but sigh. In just a short period of time, Su Mu's health value increased by nearly 20 points. At this rate, when Su Mu completely consumes these qi and blood medicines made from snake berries, Su Mu will probably be not far from the late stage of a first-level warrior. After practicing the 10,000 races body refining technique for a while, Su Mu began to practice the concept of gods and demons again. The improvement in mental power still surprised Su Mu. It seems that every time Su Mu practices the idea of gods and demons after going back to work, it will have miraculous effects. After practicing for several hours, the improvement in Su Mu's mental strength was even greater than the increase in qi and blood value after taking the qi and blood medicine made from snake berries. After practicing the concept of gods and demons, Su Mu began to stay in the training room, learning all kinds of knowledge about all races. After he came to the battlefield of all races, he realized more and more what it means to see something on paper but only know that it must be done in detail. Although I had deliberately learned some of the racial habits of the 10,000 poison crite before, it was time to actually look for them. It still took most of the effort. The knowledge learned from Shenlin is indeed rich and comprehensive, but it can only be used better with more practice. 12 hours passed quietly while Su Mu was studying. Looked at the time. Su Mu stood up and stretched. Immediately, he grabbed the long sword placed aside. It's almost time, it's time to start brushing your talents. The moment he picked up the long sword, Su Mu's appearance also changed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a moment, he had turned into a strong man over 2 meters tall. After all, it was the first time to do such a thing, so Su Mu couldn't let go for a while. But even if you can't let go, you still have to do it. After changing his appearance with a makeover, Su Mu strode out of the training room. The long sword in his hand was quickly covered with a layer of red flames. You don't have eyes when you walk. A soldier bumped into Su Mu's body. But I just said something. Then he saw a slap coming towards him quickly. Snapped. The soldier was caught off guard and was photographed directly. Pong! He landed hard on the ground. At the same time, Su Mu raised his hand and stabbed the shoulder of the person next to him with his sword. Sorry. Su Mu silently apologized in her heart. Immediately, the movements in his hands did not stop at all. Wild Wind Sword Technique. The Wave of Sword Chance. Mental Bewitchment. Red Flame Bloodline. Enemy Attack. Enemy Attack. One by one, attacks were launched towards the people around them crazily. Although it seems to be very powerful, Su Mu tries his best to avoid everyone's vital points and releases the main power on the ground or the walls of nearby buildings. After the initial panic, the soldiers quickly began to react. One by one, they attacked Su Mu. Su Mu is strong when he is strong, but among the soldiers nearby, there are also second-level warriors. Soon, Su Mu began to suffer. We can't continue like this. The talents of the soldiers around us are too weak. If this happens, our return this time will be in vain. I saw that some ordinary soldiers around me were about to wear themselves to death. Clouds of green mist began to fill Su Mu's body quickly. A-level talent. Poison miasma. This is not over yet. A black light quickly flashed across Su Mu's body. Black light poured in, and the green mist suddenly became much darker. B-level talent. Toxin enhancement. At the same time, streams of breeze began to appear out of thin air behind Su Mu. With the green mist, it quickly surged towards the surrounding soldiers. These poisons are also the means that Su Mu has long thought of. They can make people lose the ability to move quickly and even look like they have died. However, as long as they are treated in time within 24 hours, there will be no serious problems. Yes, it's poisonous. Some soldiers felt something was wrong when they saw the green mist. However, the mist spread extremely quickly under the control of Su Mu's wind element. When they saw the fog, the green mist was already rushing in their direction. Looking at the soldiers who were poisoned by him one by one, a trace of unbearability flashed in Su Mu's eyes. But it quickly disappeared. Sorry everyone. After all, this is the first time I have done this kind of thing. Su Mu still felt a little bit regretful. However, in order to be able to brush up on talents, this should be the fastest method. Under Su Mu's poisonous mist, soldiers fell one after another. With Su Mu's poisonous miasma now strengthened by toxins, even warriors in the late second realm can't stand it if they smell it. Even for warriors of the third realm, it is quite difficult to move freely under this poisonous miasma. And under Su Mu's bold move, soon it also attracted many human soldiers to encircle and suppress them. In rounds of battles, Su Mu eventually died in the hands of a 3-level warrior with a B-level talent, water control. The water arrow he condensed quickly pierced Su Mu's heart while Su Mu was not paying attention. The moment he was pierced by a water arrow, Su Mu felt her eyes gradually getting dark. The pain of death was already somewhat numb to him. The last thought in his mind was, B-level talent, a loss. Call. Su Mu suddenly raised her head, gasping for air. One thing to say is that when Su Mu first wounded and knocked out human soldiers outside, she was not very comfortable. But later on I was able to control my strength accurately. But even so, Su Mu still sat against the wall with some lingering fear. The guilt of being an enemy of all his compatriots made it difficult for him to accept it for a moment. I originally thought that I could easily accept that I was on the opposite side of everyone. But when they really stood in front of him and attacked him one after another, Su Mu always has an indescribable feeling in her heart. Sorry. Su Mu pressed her temple. He stood up again. In order to quickly improve her strength, Su Mu must copy more talents. But if you can attract attention as soon as possible in the war zone and attract some powerful people to kill you, then you must make things bigger. Su Mu walked out of the training room again. This time, he didn't even change his appearance. You don't have eyes when you walk. Pong. Su Mu. Why did you betray the human race? Fang Chocho, haven't you always wanted to fight me? I'll give you this chance. I'll kill you, you murderous maniac. PFF'd. Fang Chocho, although your brain is not very good, it is not bad for the human race to have a fool with good talent like you. You don't have eyes when you walk. Pong. Su Mu, hurry up and capture us. Are you under the influence of paganism? Catch him alive. A dazzling genius actually massacred in a war zone. There must be some secret behind this. Catch him and find out who is behind him. He's dead. He poisoned himself. You don't have eyes when you walk. Pong. A genius from the genius training camp. What a pity that you betrayed the human race at a young age. People like you should die on your knees in the martyrs' cemetery. Remember, the person who killed you is named Chu Xuan. You don't have eyes when you walk. Pong. Su Mu, human traitor. Longjing Martial Arts University, sophomore students have a long way to go. Please, I didn't expect that there are geniuses like you in the human race. It's not a loss if I die in your hands. You are very strong, stronger than I was a year ago. It's a pity. If you weren't a human traitor, we might have become good opponents and good friends. Ha 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 ha, you are also the strongest person in the same realm that I have met until now. You are obviously only in the middle stage of the second realm, but your strength is far beyond that. Next time, let's be friends again. Next time, don't be a traitor. Who would be willing to be a traitor if they could? But believe it or not, my hands are not stained with their blood. Go well. I don't know how much time has passed. Su Mu sat against the wall in a daze. His face was a little pale. In his mind, scenes flashed quickly like a movie. I'm not a traitor. He stood up in a daze. I am not a traitor. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.